Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to the race watch along for the 2023 Sao Paulo Grand Prix. I hope you guys are well and are excited for what could be maybe not as exciting as a race, I guess, is what we had yesterday. Yesterday's sprint race was very good. Of course, it's Interlagos. It's going to be good. This track is very good for racing, but with the grid we've got, it's mixed up, but probably not mixed up enough in the right areas to have maybe as good of a race as potentially we could have had qualifying on Friday. The conditions then been a bit different, but I am looking forward to the race. I think we will get a good race. I don't think we'll get an absolute classic. It's going to take something special for that to happen. But yeah, I think we'll get a good race, many battles throughout the field, and yeah, we'll be commenting on many bits of overtaking and just defending racing in general during the 71 laps, which will be underway in just under 90 minutes time. And yeah, I did say in the live chat before I went live that I would let you guys know why I delayed the start of the stream by half an hour. And the reason is because, and it is hard for me to say this, I don't think I'm going to cry, but, you know, you never know what could happen. But I've had a cat for nearly 10 years, and for the last couple of weeks especially, this cat has been particularly ill. And sadly, when I woke up this morning, me and my significant other, well, not significant other, but, you know, other family member in the house, we woke up to find that cat sadly deceased. And I have basically been crying for like 4 or 5 hours straight. I've been very emotional. So if I do not sound quite myself today, please bear with me, but I feel very low today for good reason. You know, maybe this won't be the case for everyone, but I'm sure there are people out there that can relate when it comes to losing an animal you've had that's been so close to you, and has been a real part of the family and you've had for so many years. When you lose that animal for whatever reason, it is crushing. And I mean, I've been very emotional, really, not just today, but for the last couple of weeks. At last weekend's race in Mexico, when I was doing my streams, before I was doing the stream, I was very emotional because I was, you know, trying to care for that cat. Um, and I've basically spent the last, not every day of the last 2 weeks, but mostly every day of the last 2 weeks crying my eyes out because this cat in particular means so much to me. And already I, dearly miss them. And yeah, about 20, 30 minutes ago, we had the cat took away, go be put, at a vet away from the house. And I was 20 minutes ago, I could barely breathe. I was crying that much. So, yeah, that's why I didn't start the stream on time, because I wanted to get the stream ready and I wanted to say my final goodbyes to that cat who, yeah, meant so much to me over the last almost 10 years. And I know you might be thinking, Chaz, why are you streaming today if you feel so bad? It's because streaming does make me feel better. That's why I like streaming, because I enjoy it. I genuinely enjoy doing this. And I actually had this happen last year, where I had a cat pass away last year during the same Grand Prix event, the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. That cat actually passed away during my weekend preview stream that I did for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix last year. And I continued with the rest of the race weekend. I never mentioned it, that other cat had passed away. But I was in tears, in the build up to all of those streams, because I just, was bits over it, was missing that cat so much. And sadly, almost exactly a year later, it's happened to another one of my cats. So yeah. I'm sure some of you animal lovers out there will relate, but yeah, just do bear with me today because I'm not feeling that great. I am excited and I am looking forward to the race, and I am looking forward to doing this stream because I know it will make me feel better. But I am very low and depressed because of what's happened today and really what's happened in the last 2 weeks because we've seen him, this particular cat go downhill and, the thoughts of death crossed my mind. And that's really why I was so emotional in the last couple of weeks. And sadly, it's led to what it's led to. So, yeah, again, bear with me today and, try and show you support in the best way you can. But I should be able to get through this stream absolutely fine. I don't think I'll be, breaking down in tears at any point. I've said my goodbyes. I've cried the majority of the tears. I probably will, in the next couple of days, get emotional about it. But, you know, he's in a better place now and he's not in pain anymore. I don't know what was wrong with him. We don't know for sure. We think it was probably cancer that we just couldn't quite find on a test, but he's not in pain anymore and he's in a better place, and that's what I've got to think of today. So, yeah, as I said, bear with me today, and hopefully I'll be able to get through this and not be too bad. And I will still be doing a live stream tomorrow, by the way, because again, these streams make me feel better. So if I don't do them, I'm just going to feel even more like shit if I don't do a live stream. So that's why I'm doing it. So, yeah. Anyway, let's move on from that and let's get into the build-up to this race. Quickly, though, before we get into the results of qualifying, let me get into the, what do you call it? Let me get into the championship standings after the sprint race. Of course, points were on offer. Max Verstappen, of course, won the championship about a month ago. Sergio Perez, a bit further clear in second place, now 24 points clear of Lewis Hamilton. Carlos Sainz in fourth, 1 point clear of Alonso. You'd imagine Carlos will continue to pull away. Lando Norris in sixth, a bit closer to Alonso and Sainz behind. Leclerc in seventh, Russell eighth, Piastri ninth, Pierre Gasly in 10th. Outside of the top 10, because of Yuki Tsunoda taking 3 points from the sprint, Tsunoda is now actually up to 14th in the championship. And overtook, Bottas and Hulkenberg, I think it was, after that point-scoring finish. And also you can see at the bottom, or near the bottom, how that has positively affected AlphaTauri's points. But yeah, Red Bull, of course, massively clear of Mercedes in second. Mercedes, 24 points clear of Ferrari, so they have pulled away by a couple points, even though they were so slow yesterday. McLaren in fourth. You'd imagine they won't be able to catch Ferrari. There's not enough races left in the season. Aston Martin fifth, Alpine sixth, Williams in seventh, and only 9 points clear now of AlphaTauri in eighth. Alfa Romeo in ninth, with Haas F1 10th, and surely they will finish in 10th place because I just don't see how their car can, with how slow it is, especially in the races. I just don't see how they can score points. But let's get into the results from Friday qualifying and go through what our starting grid is for today's race. So here is the top 10 from qualifying. It's not quite what starting grid officially is going to be, but I'll get onto why that is in a moment. Max Verstappen will start on pole position with Charles Leclerc second alongside him on the front row. And then on the second row, the two Aston Martins of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. An incredible qualifying they had on Friday. It was lucky to a certain extent. They did, though, have to make their own luck, really, to get that position. But, of course, Aston Martin on pure performance are not that quick. We know that. And then Lewis Hamilton ended up fifth. George Russell ended up in sixth, but he was given a 2-place grid penalty, I think, for impeding in Friday qualifying. So he will, Russell, start from 8th place rather than 6th. So it'll be Norris in 6th, Carlos Sainz 7th, George Russell 8th, Sergio Perez will start in 9th. He really should be making progress today. And then Oscar Piastri will start 10th. And for the rest of the order, by the way, I haven't included the lap times for the rest of the order because everyone outside the top 10 in Friday qualifying was lapping quicker than they did in Q3 because of the way the weather conditions changed. So, as to not confuse us, that's why I didn't include the lap times. But Hülkenberg ended up 11th, Ocon 12th, Gasly 13th, Magnussen 14th. The two Alpines, though, were both given 2-place penalties, I think also for impeding. So it will actually be Hülkenberg 11th, Magnussen 12th, Albon 13th, Ocon 14th, and Gasly in 15th. The two AlphaTauris, who were so amazingly quick yesterday, start 16th and 17th. Valtteri Bottas starts in 18th. Logan Sargent starts 19th. And Zhou Guanyu will start 20th and last. So let's get into the sector time data and also really the data from yesterday. Because unfortunately, guys, even though I've just gone through the results of qualifying, for some reason on the FIA website, the data from Friday qualifying is not available. So the only data I've got is the sector time and speed trap data from the sprint shootout on Saturday, what was basically Saturday lunchtime in Sao Paulo. So let's go through those sector times just to look at who was quick in certain parts of the circuit and who to look out for in certain parts of the track. So the first sector, Red Bull and Ferrari looking pretty quick through them. McLaren not too bad at all. And you'll see in the final sector, they were very impressive in sprint qualifying. AlphaTauri as well, impressive. Mercedes lacking maybe a tad on what you would have expected, but the first sector was still not too bad. Then the Haas in 6th, Alpine in 7th, and the Williams, Aston Martin, and Alfa Romeo. Do remember, though, that I think in, was it SQ2 and SQ1, they were running different tyres to what they did in, was it SQ3? So, wasn't the most representative quali session, sprint qualifying on Saturday, but this is all the data we have in terms of the sector time. So Red Bull and Ferrari looking good, but McLaren especially, the surprise team, one of the surprise teams of the weekend. And if we look at the middle sector where all of the corners really are, and most of them are slow speed corners, McLaren the quickest, only by a thousandth of a second from Mercedes, but that's why McLaren are, out of the front running teams, the biggest surprise this weekend, because McLaren have come out and said this before, and we have observed it, that McLaren in slow speed corners are not very good. But for some reason here, they are very good. I don't really know how to explain it. Lando Norris yesterday, after getting the pole position for the sprint race, did say that he was very pleasantly surprised by the pace of the McLaren. So I think McLaren even are surprised by the speed of the car through really the entire lap, not just this part of the track. Yeah, the McLaren in the middle sector is so strong compared to everyone else. Well, in sprint qualifying, not quite everyone else, because Mercedes were at the same pace, but McLaren's pace in the sprint race, of course, a lot better than the Silver Arrows. Red Bull not too bad through there, and then a bit of a drop-off to AlphaTauri, who were very surprisingly good in that middle sector, a tenth of a second quicker than Ferrari. Ferrari quite poor in the middle sector, losing probably a quarter of a second too much in terms of lap time in that middle sector were Ferrari, and it definitely cost them in sprint qualifying. And then after that, a big drop-off to Hülkenberg, Bottas, Gasly, Stroll, and Albon, Aston Martin. I know they didn't have the most representative session in sprint qualifying because Fernando Alonso could not do sprint Q2 because of the crash that he had with Ocon, which was definitely not his fault before Esteban Ocon, tries to claim that anymore. Yeah, Aston Martin, we don't really know, I think, truly what their proper pace was like in the sprint quali. In the middle sector, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, definitely the three best teams through there. And then most surprisingly, in the final sector, and the final sector is one corner and then you're flat out to the start-finish line, McLaren, the quickest team by half a tenth over Red Bull. Very surprising. Very, very surprising. As I'll get onto in a moment with the speed trap data, I think they have got the setup absolutely bang on this weekend, and that's really what has helped them here in Brazil. But even with them getting the setup right, I think they are even still a bit surprised as to how quick they were yesterday and how quick really they've been this weekend. Red Bull's pace still good. AlphaTauri's pretty good, slightly quicker than Ferrari, which is quite a surprise. Alpine's pretty good as well, but as you'll see in a moment, they had quite a low drag setup, and they do have quite a low drag setup on the cars, so that is helping their performance a bit more this weekend. Mercedes, though, very poor, nearly 0.3 of a second slower than McLaren in the final sector is unacceptable, really, and that's really the biggest reason why Mercedes this weekend are not very quick, because their car, and Lewis Hamilton came out and said this after the sprint race, not only does the car have too much deg, it also has quite a bit too much drag. That's why Mercedes were passed so easily on track yesterday by the AlphaTauri, the Ferrari, the McLaren, and, well, going into this race, I've got to say I'm not very confident for Mercedes team. And then after they got Haas, Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, and Williams. I am still surprised that Williams were not very quick in really the higher speed sectors of this track in sprint qualifying. But as you'll see in a moment in the speed traps, their top speed was not exactly great. But yeah, I think overall, we go back to the middle sector times in sprint qualifying. I think it's hard to say when it comes to low fuel running who has had genuinely the best pace this weekend, because it's been, one, a sprint weekend, and two, the weather has not been quite consistent the whole way through the weekend. So it's hard really to say who's been the absolute quickest. But Red Bull and McLaren have got the two best cars here. There is no, I don't think I have much doubt about that anymore. And then after that, probably Ferrari third, Mercedes fourth, maybe even behind AlphaTauri, but I'd say they're pretty much on par with AlphaTauri. But then after that, you've got what? Haas, Alfa Romeo, maybe Alpine, Aston Martin, Williams. But yeah, it is very hard to read what the pace over a single lap really was during this particular race weekend. But in terms of race pace, of course, we had a great indication yesterday as to what that is looking like going into this Grand Prix. But let me just touch on the top speeds in the maximum speed trap. The maximum speed trap, by the way, is located at the end of the pit straight. And Alpine had the best top speed. And the reason that is because, again, they went for a very low drag setup, which has helped them be a bit more competitive than probably expected. Ferrari's top speed's still good. They just don't have the downforce this weekend through the corners that other teams do. And that ultimately is costing them. Red Bull's top speed is good. McLaren's, though, look at that. Basically on par with Red Bull and Ferrari in the speed trap. And that is the key as to why McLaren have been so good at high speed, because they've got the setup absolutely bang on. Plus, because of the massive improvements they've made to the car during this season, it is a lot less draggier of a car than it was in the first half of 2023. AlphaTauri's top speed is good. Haas's is okay. And then a big drop-off to Alfa Romeo. And yeah, Williams and Mercedes have clearly not got their setup right this weekend. Williams, clearly too much downforce on. I think, though, that might be because Williams have been suffering with excessive tyre wear. Maybe that's why Williams have decided to do that. And with Mercedes, simply, yeah, they've gone, they've just put too much wing on the car. And that's why they've ended up being so draggy this weekend. And that's why yesterday, not totally why, but I would say mostly why they were so slow yesterday, because the top speed just isn't there. And anyone today that has DRS behind the Mercedes is going to be looking very, good to overtake that particular Mercedes car. But, oh, by the way, good to see Stella in the chat. Haven't seen you in a while. That's, yeah, been a long, long time since I've seen you. Good to see you. Yeah, let's now go on to the pace of the sprint race yesterday and look at the average lap times, the average, let's say, pace that everyone had, just to determine really who has the best and the worst race pace for this particular Grand Prix. And yeah, Red Bull and McLaren were way out ahead of every other team. Max Verstappen was averaging a 1:15.1. Lando Norris only a tenth of a second per lap slower than the Red Bulls. So even though Norris is sixth on the grid, he should be able to make good progress from there because the McLaren car is quite a bit quicker than sixth on the grid. Then Ferrari, AlphaTauri, and Mercedes over the course of that sprint had about the same pace, but Ferrari and AlphaTauri were just slightly quicker than Mercedes, and the reason that is because of the also the tyre deg Mercedes were suffering towards the end. Their lap times really did drop off. So yeah, Mercedes' race pace does not look good. Aston Martin's pace was okay, nothing special. Williams's was a bit better. They actually ended up a tad better than Alpine over the course of the sprint. So that does fill me with hope that Albon in 13th maybe could gain a couple positions today. And if he gets a bit lucky, he can maybe get a point or two from this race. And then Alfa Romeo and Haas at the very back. Haas, of course, though, did the sprint on the medium compound tyre, and I think they could have gone quicker in the sprint had they been on the soft. So, yeah, Haas and Alfa Romeo's pace doesn't look good. AlphaTauri's, though, they look very good. But yeah, the pace and the pecking order in terms of pace in clean air I expect it to be today is Red Bull quickest, McLaren second, probably Ferrari third, I would say. Just about from AlphaTauri fourth, Mercedes fifth, Aston Martin sixth, Williams seventh, Alpine eighth, and then probably, because Haas struggles so much with tyre wear, probably Alfa Romeo ninth and Haas in 10th. That's the pecking order I am expecting from this particular Grand Prix today. But let's now get into my predictions for this race. And I've gone for my top 10. And here it is. I think Max Verstappen will win the race today by about 20 seconds from Lando Norris in second. Sergio Perez will finish in third. And then I'm going Leclerc fourth, Piastri fifth. Not too far behind Leclerc. Hamilton sixth, just ahead of Sainz in seventh. Alonso eighth, Russell ninth, and Yuki Tsunoda, even though he'll be a lap down by the end, I think he will take the final point in this Grand Prix. So that's my top 10. Let me know in the chat, guys, what is your prediction for this race today? Who's it's going to win? What's your top 3, your top 5? Let me know in the live chat, and I will get to some of your comments very, very soon. Before I go back to the main page and get the timer back on screen, just want to update you guys as to the next couple pieces of content on the channel. Tomorrow night, I'll be back on this channel live at 7 p.m. UK time for a weekend review of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And then back about 10 days later for the weekend preview for the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix. Thursday night, that'll be on the 16th of November at 8 p.m. UK time. And I can announce that for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, I will be covering every session. I will be doing a watch-along for every session in Vegas. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And for everybody right now watching, if you haven't already, make sure to smash the like button. Of course, it does help the channel grow. How many likes are we on at the moment? 23 likes. Let's try and get up to, say 35 plus likes if we can in the next, say, half an hour. That'd be good if we could do that. But what I'll do now is quickly, before we move on to the teams, and just go through all of them and get into how I think they'll their race will play out today. Let me quickly just get up the Pirelli Motorsport Twitter account to let you guys know what Pirelli have said is the fastest strategy option for this race. So, according to Pirelli, the fastest strategy today is a two-stop strategy. And according to them, the quickest way is to start the soft tyre, pit between laps 17 and 23, then go into a set of mediums, and then pit between lap 46 and 52, and then finish the race on a set of soft tyres. Or you could start on the mediums, and then pit between lap 20 and 26, go into another set of mediums, pit between lap 48 and 54, and then finish the race on the soft compound tyre. There is also the option of doing a three-stop strategy, but I would be surprised if that three-stopper did happen unless we get a safety car or a virtual safety car, let's say, at the right time. Last year, I think we had a three-stop race, but we did have a safety car, I think with like 20 or 25 laps to go, which definitely helped that. And looking at the tyres available for the drivers today, so the top drivers, they've all got one new set of hard tyres. The two Red Bulls and the two Ferraris have got two new sets of mediums. The two Mercedes have only got one set of new mediums. Fernando Alonso's got three new sets of mediums, which is great for him. So yeah, we'll see how that all plays out. Also, interestingly, at McLaren, Lando Norris has one new set of hard tyres, one new set of medium, and Oscar Piastri has one new set of hard tyres, but two new sets of mediums. So we will see whether that could be a key advantage for Piastri today, coming through from 10th on the grid. But I'm not surprised that they predicted a two-stop race today, because, I mean, we've seen it last year, that we had a two-stop, and the tyres are not really that much different from last year. Plus, it's not really, doing extra pit stops here in Brazil. You don't really get punished for it here like you would do, say, in Mexico, because it is very easy to overtake here in Brazil, when in Mexico, being held up is quite common, and it can, and normally does, completely destroy, the ability to pull off a successful two-stop strategy. So, yeah, no surprise about the two-stopper. But let's get into the teams, and then I can get onto your comments sooner rather than later. So we'll start with Red Bull. For Max Verstappen, as long as he has a comfortable first lap. Remember, of course, DRS not available until lap 3 in the proper race, so he won't have to contend with that straight away, like he had to in the sprint race, which allowed a couple drivers behind him to keep up a bit more than really they deserve to. So as long as Verstappen, keeps the lead and has a good first lap, I think Max Verstappen will pull away and win the race by a country mile. For Sergio Perez, though, in 9th place, strategically, what could they do to get themselves up the field? Could they maybe go a bit longer with their first stint to try and have fresh tyres for the second half of the race? Maybe that is an option for them to do. To be honest, I think that's what I would probably do. I know Pirelli have said that, the pit stops most likely will be between, say, lap 18 and lap 25. Maybe if Sergio Perez starts on the mediums, maybe Perez can go until, say, lap 27, lap 28, something like that, before he makes his first pit stop, and just go a bit longer, which I don't think is really going to cost him, too much. And then on fresher and potentially softer tyres compared to his rivals, he'll be super quick for the rest of the race and potentially have enough pace to then get onto the podium. Ultimately, though, Red Bull, I think, will get both cars onto the podium because their pace is so strong compared to everybody else except for McLaren. And that is really the only team they need to worry about today is McLaren because McLaren have proven this weekend that their pace is very strong. Every other team cannot match them. So, yeah, I think they'll be fine. And first and third, even with Perez starting in ninth, I think is definitely an achievable result. So, yeah, wouldn't be surprised at all if they ended up with that result. And they would deserve it because their pace has been pretty strong this weekend, even if it hasn't been the most, say, comfortable of race weekends. On to Mercedes-Benz, and yeah, what a disaster yesterday was, and here you can see Yuki Tsunoda passing Lewis Hamilton in the sprint, and that was on pure pace. Hamilton's tyres had gone, and he ended up finishing over 5 seconds behind Tsunoda. It was quite incredible how bad the pace was from the Mercedes. I mean, George Russell was being caught even pretty quickly towards the end of the sprint as well. So this is not going to be a good event for Mercedes. The weather conditions are not going to be exactly the same because the race is starting an hour and a half earlier than the sprint did. But really, the weather conditions are about the same. It's hot and sunny, and it is going to be, the tyres are going to get worn out quite a bit today. And if those tyre deg issues do present themselves again, which they probably will, then they're going to fall away. They're definitely not going to be quick enough, I think, to fight for a top 5 today in the race. And they're going to have to rely, really, on the performances by the drivers to really drag them into somewhat of a decent result, given how bad the setup of the car is. And clearly, they haven't got the setup right this weekend. Too much drag, and clearly, they're just wearing their tyres out way too much. So, yeah, this is not going to be a good race for Mercedes. That's why Lewis Hamilton, I have gone for in 6th place, which is not an awful result, but it's not definitely as good as maybe what they were hoping this weekend. And Russell starting at 8th, I don't see him making any progress, and that's why I think he'll finish in 9th place and finish, well, over a minute behind Max Verstappen, which if yesterday's race was 71 laps, he would have finished well over a minute behind the Red Bull driver. So yeah, if you're a Mercedes fan, going into this race, the best thing to do is have no expectation because I don't see, unless they get very lucky today, I don't see what they can really get out of this race that would be, a very good or great result. I just don't see what they can get. Ferrari, they kind of felt the same in the sprint. Their pace also was not very good. We have to remember that. Their tyres did fall off quite badly. Carlos Sainz, for example, was nearly passed at the very end by Daniel Ricciardo. The only positive is that the Ferrari tyres seemed not to be wearing as badly towards the end as it was for Mercedes. But other than that, it was a pretty negative sprint race for Ferrari. Leclerc starting in the front row. He's got no chance of winning this race today. The Red Bull is in another universe this weekend in terms of race pace, and that's why Ferrari will not be contending for victory. I think they've got a decent chance of a podium, and the reason I say that is because Sergio Perez is back in 9th and Leclerc is on the front row. At least Leclerc does have the advantage of track position. And I think with Leclerc, if they're going to get a podium, the key is to try and pit Leclerc a bit earlier than Norris and Perez, who are going to be the two main rivals for Leclerc in this race today. The two main rivals for Ferrari in really preventing Ferrari getting onto the podium. But again, they need to make sure if they do pit earlier than Norris and Perez, that it's not too early, because if it's too early, then that will come back to bite them quite heavily later in the race. But yeah, if they can pit, I don't know, lap 17, 18, say right when the first pit stop window opens, and get in and get some new tyres on immediately. And then maybe Lando Norris comes in a couple laps later and is behind them on track, then that should help protect their position for a bit longer. And maybe, you never know, help them later on. But that's the only thing I can see them trying to do that could help, is doing an undercut a couple times to keep themselves ahead for as long as possible until the very end, where things could get very hairy for the Ferrari team. But ultimately, I don't think they've got the pace to finish on the podium. I don't see it. I think they're wearing their tyres out too much, and I don't think they've got really the downforce levels this weekend to compete with McLaren and Red Bull over the course of a 71 lap race. And somehow, someway, Norris and Perez will pass Leclerc. Carlos Sainz, I think, will be right behind Hamilton and finish in 7th. Leclerc will finish in 4th, which necessarily would not be a terrible result. 18 points that would be. And if Mercedes finished where I predicted, 6th and 9th, that would be 10 points. That would still be a gain of 8 points on Mercedes and close the gap for second in the championship going into the final 2 races of the season. So really, I think the aim for today is just outscore Mercedes. That's all they could really do, and hope for the best result possible. McLaren, let's go on to them. What a weekend they have had. They were absolutely brilliant, were McLaren yesterday. Their pace this weekend in general has been quite a bit better than expected. And as you saw earlier, it is because their top speed has been a lot stronger than normal. They've got the setup absolutely bang on, and it is helping them a lot this weekend. Oscar Piastri didn't have the greatest sprint yesterday. Did have a very good overtake on Daniel Ricciardo, but really was just stuck in a train for the entire 24 laps and was pushed off by Carlos Sainz on the first lap as well. If he can have a clean first lap and maybe gain a position, I think Piastri can have a good race today. That McLaren is a lot quicker than where he is on the grid, and I think he knows that. For Lando Norris, though, if we go on to him, great sprint yesterday. Wasn't the greatest start, but a great comeback, and his pace was very strong, and the McLaren pace was very strong. His focus needs to be really just at least hold position on lap 1. And then, with the pace the McLaren car clearly has, then he can start to cook and then pass Hamilton, which he should do relatively easily, and then pass the 2 Aston Martins, which he should do pretty easily, because the McLaren yesterday, and really at the minute, is way, way quicker than the Aston Martin. So that should be absolutely doable. And then the main fight for him is to pass Charles Leclerc and secure second in this Grand Prix. And because of the pace the McLaren has this weekend, and that it showed in the sprint yesterday, I think at some point he will pass Leclerc. I don't know when, but at some point he will, and he will get up to second place, because the McLaren is way too quick compared to the Ferrari. For Piastri, though, going to be a bit more of a difficult race, but if he does properly show what the McLaren car and its pace is, and he's a bit stronger than he was, say, yesterday or the day before, then I think Oscar Piastri will finish in 5th place, just ahead of Lewis Hamilton and not too far behind Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. A lot more pace in that McLaren, no doubt about it, as, yeah, it is hot and sunny. Bit windy, but still hot and sunny and great conditions in Sao Paulo, because I'm just seeing Ted Kravitz at the exit of the pit lane, about to, I think, watch the cars go out. Yeah, McLaren, watch them today. They are going to be making a lot of progression through the field. Now we'll just whiz through the rest of the teams. Actually, before I do, I want to read out a super chat from Turbo GSR for $10. Let me just quickly read this out. He says, mark my words, read my lips, Merc-powered podium, Hamilton, Russell, Norris, Alonso, Stroll, Piastri, Albon. Norris even said he has more power than Verstappen's Honda engine. Cheers for that, mate. And yeah, maybe Mercedes-powered teams will have a better day today. They definitely were having a decent day, let's say, with McLaren, not necessarily with Mercedes or not really with Aston Martin. But the fact is, whether we like it or not, Aston Martin are third and fourth on the grid, and it will be Lance Stroll in third. Once again, in damp conditions, Lance Stroll just magically turns into an amazing driver. Fernando Alonso will be in fourth, and yeah, they are going to be the team to look at in terms of any team losing positions, because they will, I think, pretty quickly drop through the field. They haven't got the straight line speed to keep ahead of cars behind, such as the McLaren, say the Ferrari, cars like that. They just don't have the straight line speed of those cars. And even in, the middle sector where the corners are, their car just isn't on the same level as those, McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari, and of course Red Bull cars. So they will drop back today, but I think Fernando Alonso will score points. We saw yesterday he was very, very good, performed very well, and Aston Martin, even though they will drop back today because they're not quick enough to maintain third and fourth, I think they've got, considering their track position, I think they do have enough pace to get a points finish today. Maybe not a lot of points, but something from this race. And that is why I have gone with Fernando Alonso finishing in 8th place, just ahead of George Russell in 9th. It will be, though, very close between Alonso, Russell, Sainz, drivers like that, I think, towards the second half of the Grand Prix. But I would be very surprised if both Aston Martins finish in the points. It would take some incredible feat, I think, really, to see them score points with both cars, because I don't think they've got enough performance in both cars to be in the top 10. I remember, sorry. Oh, my throat doesn't feel too great. Let me have a quick. Actually, I'll do that in a moment. The sip of water. Yeah. Also, you need to remember the AlphaTauris starting lower down in 16th and 17th. They are a bit quicker than Aston Martin are right now, so they will be making progress. And probably towards the end of the race, the AlphaTauris and the Aston Martins are going to be pretty much on the same piece of racetrack. So it's going to be a close run thing as to, who ends up finishing in in terms of who ends up finishing in the last 2 to 3 points paying positions. But I think Alonso will finish in 8th, because I think, given how great of a driver he is, and also plenty of experience at this track, and I think that will help him, as we're seeing a replay here of George Russell pulling alongside the McLaren of Lando Norris on the entry to the pit lane, and I thought he was going to overtake him then, and ended up not doing so. So, yeah, don't really know what was happening there, but he didn't overtake him. But, yeah, Aston Martin will drop back through the field, no doubt about that. For Alpine, their top speed a lot better this weekend. Their setup has been good in terms of getting or having a good top speed, but sadly they are still not quick. They're not quick enough to be top 10 runners, as we saw in the sprint yesterday. They weren't a million miles away, but they just weren't quite there. Pierre Gasly, I have to say, I think has had a good weekend. He's been driving well, getting the best out of the car, but there's not really much to get out of the car because this track just does not suit the Alpine. So yeah, Alpine definitely won't score points today because they don't have the power to really do anything. Williams didn't have a great sprint race and didn't have a great sprint day. Alex Albon, though, starting in 13th. His pace in the sprint, if I go back to that picture again, Yeah, Albon's pace in the sprint was actually not too bad. And I think Albon, there is a decent chance he could finish in, say, 11th or 12th place. But if all of the cars do finish today, I don't think the Williams has enough pace to finish in the top 10. Because the AlphaTauris, for example, lower down, I think they will eventually get past Albon. Maybe not both of them, but at the very least one of them. And I just think ultimately Albon in that Williams doesn't quite have enough speed to take a point on pure performance. But I don't think he'll be that far away. Maybe only a few seconds away. So don't count Albon out. Obviously, he's had a great season. So we have to remember that he's in, great form is Alexander Albon. And yeah, Williams, they've not had Williams they've not had a great weekend, but there was a slight bit of promise shown yesterday. So I don't think they'll be too bad today, but just not quite as strong today as really we expected for this race weekend. Next up, AlphaTauri. What a sprint yesterday they had. 6th and 9th. 3 crucial points scored by Yuki Tsunoda. Daniel Ricciardo had a great sprint, couple of great overtakes, but in the end, I think was a tad unlucky in not scoring a point, because I think he deserved one, definitely more so than Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton. So, yeah, unfortunate for Ricciardo, but I think given the pace they showed yesterday, it's going to be a pretty fun race for those two drivers, because they know they've got the pace to get into that top 10, and as long as they give it everything during the race, then they should be able to grab at least 1 point from this Grand Prix. So, yeah, I think AlphaTauri they'll be really outside of the top 10, the team to look out for. Yuki Tsunoda, I think, will maintain position ahead of Ricciardo. Tsunoda has been faster than Ricciardo this weekend. That is clear to see. Don't obviously count Ricciardo out, because his form has picked up and he is in good form. There is no doubt about that. But yeah, I think Tsunoda will be. If there's going to be a point scorer for AlphaTauri, it will be Yuki Tsunoda. And that's why I've gone for Tsunoda in P10. But because of how far they're starting back, it is still going to be a close call as to whether they do finish in the points. So they've got to make sure they get, the pit stops right, the strategy right as well. Because if they do waste a bit too much time out there on track, it may just cost them getting the result, really, they deserve to get. Alfa Romeo, not really anything to say. Their pace is very bad, and they're not going to score points. And the same really goes for Haas F1. They're starting, I think, in the same position they started yesterday sprinting, 11th and 12th. But of course, we know what their race pace is like, so no chance of a point for the Haas F1 team. So, there you go, guys. We've got 40 minutes to go until lights out in Sao Paulo. Make sure to keep smashing that like button if you haven't already. I can see we have 41 likes. Let's try and get up to 50 plus likes if we can in the next, say, 15 to 20 minutes. That'd be great if we could. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is read out, read out some comments, a lot of comments from you guys in the chat. And then the closer we get to the race, obviously we'll get properly into this Grand Prix. I've just been notified that the track temperature has shot up to 50 degrees Celsius in the last hour or so, hotter than it was during the sprint. And of course, this race taking place earlier in the day than the sprint did. So that will be, or playing quite a factor, quite a role in this race today. And that's why a team like Haas F1, for example, have absolutely no chance of getting a point today, because their tyre wear is bad at any track, never mind track where the track temperature is so high. To be honest, if I was Haas, I would commit to a 3-stop strategy, because, I mean, what's the point in doing a 2-stopper and copying everybody else? They may as well go for a 3-stopper and just try and see what happens. That's their best hope, really, if they're going to do anything today. And talking of Haas F1, I forgot to mention this yesterday. they have lodged a review or an appeal to review the results of the US Grand Prix, because it did come out after the US Grand Prix that the FIA did not record a lot of the track limit violations during the race, and Haas F1 want penalties for certain drivers to be applied so they can get a few more points out of that race. I don't see that happening. I don't see them being successful whatsoever, and I think it is just very desperate what they're trying to do. They know, I think, that they're clutching at straws, really. The Haas F1 team, but we'll see what happens with that in the next couple weeks. Anyway, let's have a look to see what you guys are saying in the chat. And I'll read some of your comments from the start when I was talking about my pet. KH says, losing a close pet is a very emotional part of your life. Yeah. Mickey saying, sorry to hear that. I lost my dog I had 15 years a few months ago and I was crying my eyes out. Yeah. That's the thing. When you get a pet, even if you love animals, you don't quite have that connection with them yet, so you don't really have that absolutely close bond. But when you've had them for so long, it's like one of your kids almost. That's what it's like to you. It's hard to describe to somebody who, hasn't had animals before or whatever. But yeah, it's been a tough day, but uh, doing this stream absolutely helps. And I mean, that's really why I stream way more probably than other F1 content creators, because not only do I like streams, but I actually, in doing them, I enjoy doing them a lot more than, say, a recorded video, which, of course, I will be publishing recorded videos in the future, but if I was to decide to do a stream or a video, it's a stream every day of the week, because I just enjoy doing it so much. So that is why I'm still persevering and pushing on. Rue Rat says, my condolences for your loss, I can totally understand. Nib saying, very sorry to hear that, mate. Cheers for your support as well. Cheers for your support, Nib, before the stream. Really appreciated that. Aline's saying, I lost 2 of my cats last year and this year and it still hurts. I'm very sorry for your loss, Chazza. Yeah, thank you guys a lot for the support. Yeah, it hurts, but let's try and move on. Keith for asking questions to Chaz or anyone, do you think Teo Porcher should be in the Alpha in 2024? Absolutely, he should be, but obviously it's been confirmed, what was it, a couple months ago, that Teo unfortunately will not be in the Alfa Romeo. Yeah, I am disappointed by that, but that is Alfa Romeo / Sauber's decision, and they will live and die by that. So we will see what happens. We'll see what happens next year with that, whether Zhou Guanyu, suddenly picks up in terms of performance. But one thing I want to try and do is find some predictions from you guys, which I did see earlier in the stream. Mickey says for their top 3, Max, Norris, Perez. De Regara says Leclerc, Verstappen, Alonso. That's quite a surprising top 3. Nib says Max, Norris, Perez, Leclerc, Piastri, which is, well, same as mine. Aline says Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton, Russell. Willafont Gaming says Verstappen, Norris, Perez, Leclerc, Alonso. Laurie Rastogi saying, I'm surprised Piastri has struggled this much. I know it's a new track for him, but rookies have succeeded at unfamiliar tracks before. Yeah, maybe it has been a bit more excessive this weekend than how it, normally should be, but I mean, some tracks are harder to learn than others. It's difficult to really It's difficult to really understand, obviously, because we're not racing drivers. As I said, I think yesterday, though, one thing that does not help is trying to learn a new track on a sprint weekend. That is very hard to do because you only get one practice session for 1 hour and you're not running for the entire hour. You're only doing maybe, what, half the session? Maybe three-quarters of the session. So, it's not like you're out there for an hour straight. Um, let's find some other comments here if I can. Back to the newest comments. Vince just saying in chat, I missed the early discussion. Had to put my 16-year-old dog down a couple months ago. Still look for her. She greet me when I get home. One of the saddest losses in my life. I'm with you, Chaz. Yeah, it's again. If you've had an animal for a while, I think you'll know exactly, the pain when you lose that pet in whatever circumstances. It doesn't matter whether you get to, have the choice to put them down or whether they, whatever. It's very difficult. And I don't know, it's hard really to put into a lot of words at the moment, but yeah, I mean, it'll get better over the next few days, and then soon enough, I'll remember this particular cat in a better way. Um, in the next few days, it was the same with the other cat that died last year. It was difficult for the first week or so after, but soon enough, started to have good, happy memories. But yeah, it's gonna be difficult, and it obviously doesn't help that at the minute I am in the not the busiest part, but quite a busy part of my second year of uni, which doesn't help. But I've just got to get through it, power through it, and things will get better. And if anyone ever has a loss like that in the future, and you're wondering, how to get through it, the best thing to do I've learned is do the things you love doing and just try and power through life, and eventually it does get better. Because if you let it, if you suspend your life because of it, then you will get worse because of it. You just need to continue living and continue, keep it moving, if that makes sense. Right, let's find some other comments here that aren't to do with Vettel and Raikkonen, which I can see plenty of comments about that in the chat. One thing I will do quickly, actually, is I'm going to post a link of the stream out a couple more times. So let me just quickly do that before we go any further, as we've got, half an hour to go. Still lights out in Brazil. Come join us here to watch along the race in Brazil. And I'll just post it on Twitter quickly and see if there's any other news that I can find. So let me just this. Come join us here to watch along the race at the Brazil GP. And right, there you go. So let me have a quick look on Twitter to see if there's any news I can bring you. One piece of news I can bring you. It's not really massive news, but I'll mention it nonetheless in case it is important for later. But Pierre Gasly has taken on a lot of new power unit elements for this race. Now you may be thinking, will that surely incur a penalty? It won't, because the new elements he's taking on they're not new. They're other power unit parts that were already in the pool of parts that they could use without getting a penalty. They've obviously used these other parts before, and they're now putting them back into, probably because they're a bit fresher than what's already there. So, yeah, maybe that will help the Alpine team today. But I think what I'm going to do quickly is I'm just going to blow my nose and have a drink quickly because, yeah, not feeling great. And I want to make sure my throat is in a bit better condition. So we'll be back, guys, with you in a few seconds' time. Right, so there you go. That should be better. And yeah, let's get back to your comments in the chat. And yeah, let's calm down with the Vettel Raikkonen stuff because I mean, yeah, it's a great debate maybe to have another day, but not today. Because yeah, we're about to go into the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, where of course both of those drivers aren't competing, sadly. Mickey's saying I think the Aston might keep the Mercs behind them and get a few points today. They looked pretty good in the sprint race. I think the reason that is because they were starting behind cars they were clearly quicker than, such as Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Haas even as well. I mean, they were decent in the sprint, but I don't think they were as good as maybe they seemed at times. So, yeah. Let me find some other comments here. I just scroll up. Mickey saying, "Let's hope Max gets a slow start to spice the race up." But his last few starts have been great. His start yesterday was so good. The once they got into like the up through the gears, second, third gear, that Red Bull just was so good. Therapy Sounds Official says Lewis wins, Lando second, Max third, Russell fourth, Perez fifth. That's interesting. But at the end of the day, that's your opinion. We'll see. Mickey says, or asks rather, do you think Merc might try to start on the hards and do a one stop? No, I don't think they'll try that. The hard compound tyre is too hard, really, this weekend to be quick enough. Yeah, it'll give great durability, but what you need is great durability and good speed, and I don't think the speed is there to help Mercedes here. If they start on the hard tyre, it would be a disaster, I think, for them. So yeah, I don't think they'll do that. And I don't think you're going to see any team today try a one-stop race because, what do you call it? Because of how easy it is to overtake here, if you stay out way too long on a set of tyres, you're just going to get overtaken so easily by so many cars, and it's not worth it at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't think that I don't think that that would be a good idea. I think what was it? It wasn't last year, but I think Ferrari a couple years ago tried it with Vettel, and for the same reason, really, it just didn't work because of how easy it was to overtake, and he lost so much time in the middle sector, especially, that he was a sitting duck, really. Yanni's saying, sorry about your cat, it's rough. Thank you. Yanni also saying, I had this thought a few weeks back. What if Red Bull rolls out a no pod design in 2024 and they make it work? That would be hilarious if they basically did the Mercedes Zero pod and they were even better than before. That would, even though I don't want to have one team dominating way above everybody else because it can make it a bit too boring. It would be funny to see. if that did happen, and it would be such a it would it generates so much salt amongst the Mercedes team and Mercedes fan base if that was to happen. But I think who was it? Um who was it who made the comment? Someone yesterday, I think it was Looney Classics, made the comment that if Mercedes, if we had been in the era of Formula One where you could spend as much money as possible on developing your car, say back a few years ago, where you could spend your Mercedes $400 to $500 million, they would have made it work. I do agree with that because at the end of the day, guys, you have to remember the zero pod design. Mercedes went for that design because they saw in the wind tunnel that it was good. So it had to have shown something for them to have gone for it, because why else would you do that? Why would you deliberately make yourself bad? It makes literally no sense. So it's not that the zero pod can never work. It's that probably with the way the rules are, the regulations are these days, they probably just can never, really get enough out of it for it to really be successful. Because maybe if we had unlimited spending and no cost cap, maybe Mercedes after a year or so would have made it work. But in this current era, you can only spend so much, and you can't just throw hundreds of millions at it to make it work like you could previously, which I do like. And that's what makes, I think, Formula One better for the future. And it should make it more competitive. And it really has, outside of Red Bull. So, yeah. It would be a funny, like, alternate universe if Red Bull had the zero pod. And, yeah, just to see, what would have happened with that. Ali, what's your cat's name? The cat that passed was Bruno. That was his name. And the cat last year that passed, his name was Caesar, but we like to call him Bean. Don't ask why. But that was our name for him. If you have an animal, you'll know, or if you've had an animal, you'll know that, you come up with nicknames and funny voices for your animals. Talk to them in funny voices. That's basically how we treat our animals. Thankfully, we do still have 2 other cats, but, this is further paint to go through, isn't it? But, yeah. Vicky says, is it bad that I like the zero pod? I mean, when they brought it, I wasn't really, a hater of it. I didn't mind really the way it looked. And I didn't mind also that Mercedes went for a different concept, because it made things going into 2022 interesting, because Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes, all 3 of them had different concepts. But ultimately, the Red Bull one has proven to be the one that has worked the best. By Red Bull, they are so dominant. Well, not just because of that, but also their operational performance. Let's find some other comments if I can. And yeah, if you haven't already, let me know what your prediction for the race is, then make sure to post it in the chat, because we still do have 20 minutes to go until lights out here in Brazil. So you've got plenty of time to let me know. And also, there is a poll running in the live chat, and I've asked you guys who will most likely challenge Max Verstappen to win the 2023 Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And out of Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, and Lando Norris, out of those 4 options, those 4 drivers, who do you think is most likely to challenge Verstappen today? Let me know in that poll in the next, say, 15 minutes. There's about 5 minutes to go. Normally, I finish up the poll. Grandmaster Yoda says Max, Norris, Checo. Prank says in the chat, agree that Merc could have made Zero Pod work, but their strength was the engine. 2016 onward, Red Bull still had a better chassis and aero package. Yeah, I think also we have to remember that with Mercedes, that it wasn't purely down to the um the whole no side pod thing in terms of why Mercedes ended up with the results that they did with that with that design concept. We have to remember their power unit is one of the weaker ones on the grid, and it's not pulling as much power as the Ferrari or the what is basically the Honda power unit. It's not as good as it was in 2021. That has hurt them in the last nearly couple years. There's no doubt about that. And also, we have to remember, whilst Lewis Hamilton and George Russell have been good, they've not been on Max Verstappen's level quite on a consistent basis in the last couple years. So that has also contributed to why they've been, in the position they've been in. So it's not totally down to the zero pod. Right, let's see if I can find any other comments going into this Grand Prix. And yeah, nice to see Stella from earlier. Been quite a long time since we've seen you in the chat. Can't remember last time it was, probably 2 or 3 years ago at least, if not longer. I can find any other comments. Laurie Rastogi says Russell it's been frustrating to watch this season. Bro, he's been very inconsistent. You can see that's what the frustrating thing is. You can see that the performance is there. He just this season just cannot deliver it week to week. It's very few and far between. So yeah, it's been a bad season for Russell. Given his talent level, it's not been good enough, and he will have to step it up next year. Mickey saying, Yuki had a good sprint race, more than good. It was an absolutely brilliant one. By the way, thank you to Mr. LH Ellie, who says sorry to hear about your cat. Thank you for your support. Vinster has given their top 5: Max, Lewis, Lando, Checo, Carlos. I would be very surprised if Hamilton got up to second, but hey, you never know. And another comment there from Eos the Wiz, who's normally a bit of a regular in the chat. Sorry if I mispronounced your name there. Says, I think a surprise Checo or Leclerc win would be nice, but I see. Hold on, let me rephrase that. He says, but Norris getting his first win would be amazing. It would, and even though, I'm not a Lando fanboy or anything like that, I do want to see Lando get his first win because he's easily good enough to be winning races right now. He just doesn't quite have the car to be doing it, at this current moment. And with how good of a driver he is, he deserves to be a race winner. So, yeah, it will come. No doubt about it. At one day, Lando will get that first race win, whether it's maybe at the end of this season, next season, 2025. He will win. He will win another. Another. What I'm on about? He will win a Grand Prix. It's gonna happen. He's too good not to win a Grand Prix. That's what I think, at least. Mr. LH says, thanks for the shout out. No problem. Vinster says Norris will have tyre issues. Maybe. We'll see. Katus saying in chat, I'm sorry to hear about your cat. As are my condolences. I'm a true believer things like this can make you stronger. Cherish the memories you had with him/her. Yeah, well, that's what I'll be trying to do for the next few days. Is just think of the good times of when they were, all healthy and like their real selves. Because he was a male, by the way, male cat. He wasn't himself for the last 2-3 weeks. We noticed that he wasn't the Bruno that we do and love, still love. So yeah, we knew there was something wrong. The problem is we had tests and what was it? I think it was blood tests, X-ray, and they couldn't find anything wrong with him. That's what's made it such a bad and emotional day. They never found anything officially wrong with him, but clearly there was something wrong with him because he went very downhill in the last couple of days. Yeah, today sadly, what happened. But yeah, in terms of what it truly was, we'll never know. But it doesn't matter because at least he's not in pain anymore and he's in a better place now, which is what matters. I don't like to see any living thing suffer. I think it's really terrible. It doesn't matter what type of species or whatever. It doesn't matter. Seeing things suffer is just so heartbreaking. And even if you don't have a connection with that particular person or animal or whatever, it's very hard to see. So yeah. Um, Mr. LH says Verstappen will win. End of story. Aline says my job is breeding cats and they're my best friends. Matt Marina says I noticed Alonso checking the track while the others were waving to everyone during the pre-race lap. Always in driver mode. Yeah. Still absolutely he's mentally as with it as he was 10 years ago. He's not fallen behind whatsoever, even though he's 42 years old now is Fernando. Mickey saying, what a bad look for F1 to have Bernie Eccleston on the grid. I'm not currently, I did quickly switch over to the football to see what was going on with that, but I didn't know that Bernie, Mr. E, as Martin Brundle likes to call him, is on the grid. Of course, was it a couple of months ago, Bernie got done for fraud in London court. I can't remember what the exact case was, but I think it was something like he failed to report money he had in a charity or something that he had or something, or that he contributed to. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, he's not had a great year, has he? Of course, Bernie, reason he always comes to this race is because he lives in Brazil, if you didn't know. Lisa Lasher says, so sorry to hear about your fur baby. They are truly our family. God bless you. Thank you very much for that. Vince just saying Fernando is a beast. He's not in it for the money. Yeah, that is absolutely true. And that's what I love about Fernando is the reason he's still around. And yeah, he is getting paid a lot of money. There is no doubt about that. But the reason he's still around is because he wants to race. I mean, I don't believe Fernando has any children. I think we would have heard about it if he did. But that, if he doesn't, I don't think he does. That's why he doesn't. Because he still is 1000% committed to motorsport. That's what he wants to do. I mean, everyone's heard the stories that Alonso, in between races, goes to his karting track that he owns and drives around that. He is insane. He is absolutely obsessed with racing. Max Verstappen is to a degree as well, because obviously he has is it a racing simulator at home? He also owns a sim racing team as well. And yeah, if you're gonna beat your peak performance, really you have to have that type of mindset. Can't be focusing too much on other things, because if you do, it can, lead to maybe a lack of performance on track. And I know some people may think I'm referring to Lewis Hamilton there, but I don't think Lewis Hamilton focuses too much on other things because he's still performing at a very, very, very high level. So yeah, I think Hamilton. I don't think he gets too focused on other ventures he has outside of F1, such as the was it clothing line he has. Obviously, he's done some music stuff, other stuff as well. I don't think he lets that stuff distract him, and he's able to manage, that type of life. Matt Marino saying, my condolences, Chaz. I went through a similar thing with my cat Perry. When you bring anything to your home, they are family, unconditional love. Absolutely, that's what I mean. Hard to explain to someone who's never had a pet, but they are part of the family. Pete also saying, Pat's a family. Sorry for your loss, mate. Again, thank you guys a lot for your support. I massively appreciate it. And yeah, that's why, unfortunately, I had to delay the start of the stream by half an hour because, yeah, I've been in bits today. But I definitely feel better doing this than if I wasn't. So that's why I'm here. As we've got just under now 10 minutes to go until the start of the race in Brazil. So if you haven't let me know yet what your top 3 or top 5 prediction is, make sure to post it in the live chat and I'll get to your comments before lights out, hopefully. But in a couple minutes, I will be finishing up the poll in the chat before we move on to a couple final things before the race watch along. De Regara says, to be honest, he's still there because he hasn't won title number 3. But anyway, yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be in it to win it, don't you? So that's why he still remains in Formula One, because if he's not, if he does still desperately want to win that 3rd world championship, he's not going to do it sat at home, obviously. And he, let's be honest with Fernando, he does deserve to be a 3-time world champion. He doesn't have enough championships really for the talent level and the skill level he has. He's one of the best drivers we've seen in the last 20-25 years, and he deserves more than just 2 world championships. So that's why he continues on. And at the start of this season, he was hoping Aston Martin, maybe they were going to push him closer to the promised land, but, well, not quite anymore because Aston Martin have fallen off quite dramatically in 2023. But I think what I'm going to do, guys, is quickly blow my nose again, and I'll mute myself whilst doing this, and then I'll be back with you guys in just a moment for a final couple things before lights out in Brazil. Right, so what we're going to do first is Mr. LH, by the way, in the chat saying Verstappen, Norris, Perez, their prediction. Brabham, good to see you, mate. Head of lights out. Yeah, let me quickly just finish up this poll in the live chat. So, I asked you guys at the start of this stream, who will most likely challenge Max Verstappen to win the 2023 Sao Paulo Grand Prix? 230 votes in total. And Lando Norris, 41% of the vote, ends up winning it, with Lewis Hamilton 2nd, Charles Leclerc 3rd, and Fernando Alonso in 4th. Lando Norris, of course, starting in P6. But let me hide that timer and get into a couple final things before lights out. So, a quick reminder of the championship standings. Max Verstappen, of course, the champion a month ago. Sergio Perez, 24 points clear of Lewis Hamilton. that fight still rages on, but I think Perez, if he has a great race today, definitely can pull away quite a bit from Lewis Hamilton in that battle. And also the battle for fourth in the championship still going on. Carlos Sainz only 1 point clear of Fernando Alonso in fifth. Lando Norris is sixth and only 8 points behind Sainz, with Leclerc seventh and also not too far behind Sainz in fourth. George Russell in eighth, and then Oscar Piastri ninth and Pierre Gasly in P10. And on the constructors' side, Red Bull, the champions, of course, from about a month and a half ago. Mercedes second, only 24 points clear of Ferrari in the battle for second. McLaren in fourth, nearly 30 points clear now of Aston Martin fifth. Alpine sixth, Williams seventh, AlphaTauri eighth, and 9 points only now behind Williams in the championship after scoring 3 points in in the sprint race. Alfa Romeo ninth and Haas last in the championship. But guys, let's now go on to your starting grid for the 2023 Sao Paulo Grand Prix. On the front row, it is Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. On the second row, for the first time this season, I believe, it is the two Aston Martins of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, the highest place Lance Stroll is starting from this season. On the third row, it's an all-British third row of Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris, who should make progress today. On the fourth row, Carlos Sainz and George Russell, who of course won this race last year. And completing the top 10, Sergio Perez and Oscar Piastri. Just outside the top 10, the two Haases of Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen. Then Alex Albon and Esteban Ocon in 13th and 14th. 15th and 16th, the two ex-teammates and still very good friends of Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda. On the penultimate row of the grid, Daniel Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas. And on the back row of the grid, Logan Sargent and Zhou Guanyu. But yeah, the formation lap will be underway shortly, and there is your starting grid on the left-hand side. And once we know who is starting on what tyre compounds, we'll then get into that, and I'll try and get that displayed on screen as soon as I can. And of course, I will be solo today. I forgot to mention that. Nib cannot join me today because it's the race is just on too early in the morning for him, and is unable to join me. But he will be back for the Las Vegas Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time, and the final race a week after that in Abu Dhabi. So it will just be me for today. As on the F1 intro, they're just going through the starting grid now. And quickly, before we get into the race, make sure, if you are new to the channel, to subscribe for more content like this, because we do qualifying and race watch-alongs for every Grand Prix. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And for everybody watching as well, make sure to smash that like button. We are on 64 likes. Let's try and get up to 75 plus in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. Now, they're showing the cars on the grid. And obviously yesterday, everyone except 3 cars starting on the soft compound tyre. I would not be expecting the soft tyre to get as much action today as we saw yesterday. So I'm expecting a lot of drivers to start on the medium. Certainly the 2 Mercedes will start on the medium, I think. And surely the Ferraris as well. Yeah, we'll find out who's on what tyres very, very soon. I think on the Red Bull, they're just pulling the tyre covers off. We're just moments away from the formation lap beginning. And Max Verstappen on the soft tyre. And so is Charles Leclerc in second. The 2 Aston Martins also on the soft. Looks like Lando Norris is as well. So a lot more people on. A Mercedes as well on the soft compound tyre. And well, looks like everybody is on the soft compound tyre. So yeah, everybody going for the same compound. as the formation lap begins now. And Max Verstappen will lead them away on this formation lap. And yeah, everyone is on the soft tyre except for Logan Sargent, who is on the medium compound tyre. So let me just update that quickly. And then I can get it displayed on the screen for you guys. And yeah. There you go. Everyone on the soft except for Sargent, 19th on the medium. So should be at least a 2-stop race today. First round of pit stops, you'd imagine, will be between lap 15 and 20 as they show up on screen on the TV broadcast that 2023 marks the 30th anniversary of Ayrton Senna's final win in Brazil. So, as Charles Leclerc, he spun off and he's into the barriers on the formation lap. What has he done? He's crashed where Hamilton did a few years ago in qualifying, and that's going to be another formation lap. The fuck has he done? How has he done that on a formation lap? And he's surely out. One of his tyres is properly in the barrier. Nope, he gets out of it. But I think his car is damaged. I don't think he should drive back to the pits, but he's going to try. He's probably going to leave debris on the track, and I don't think we're going to see the race start on time because Leclerc, and no, I think Leclerc, is he pulling off? He is. What a disaster. What has he done? And Charles Leclerc is out before we've even started. Let's see what happened. And going into turn 6, he was already spun round. And going into turn 6, the fast right-hander. That looks so weird. He just had a very weird snap of oversteer. Unless he just applied the throttle too early, too hard. But he's out. Leclerc in the barrier, well, not in the barriers anymore, but he's pulled off the track. And will we see a delayed start to the race? Well, the cars are now lining up. So here we go. And looks like we are going to start this race, I think. As well, yeah, Leclerc is out. So the final car lines up. What more drama will happen in this Sao Paulo Grand Prix as the green flag waves and the lights are now on? 3 lights, 4, 5 lights. And a long wait, but it is go in Brazil. And Lando Norris has had a brilliant start. Both Aston Martins are going nowhere in a hurry. And big crash in the background. And Williams into the barriers and a Haas as well. And complete disaster and tyres flailing about as well. And Piastri's had a big snap of oversteer. Did he hold it? I think he did. Surely this is going to be a safety car. As Verstappen leads from Norris second, Hamilton is third, and yes, we have a safety car. What a disaster this race has been so far. But Norris is second, Hamilton is third, Alonso is fourth, and then I think it's Stroll in fifth. Then after that, it is Russell sixth, Perez seventh, and yeah, there's a Haas car of Kevin Magnussen off, and so is Alexander Albon. So those 2 cars out of the race, and you can see it happen right off the line as the safety car will go through the pit lane. So they can get those cars cleared away. Doesn't look like there's too much damage to the barrier that's been done, so I don't think we're going to see a red flag here like we did last week in Mexico. But there is a bit of debris on the pit straight as well that needs to be cleared away. The rear end of that Williams is completely destroyed. And here's a replay of the start. The Aston Martin of Alonso was pointed towards Stroll, and he got a horrible start, did Alonso. Still better than Stroll. And then Albon, he made contact with Magnussen. Magnussen was caught in a sandwich between Albon and Hulkenberg. And Albon made contact with Magnussen, and that's why the crash happened. Nothing Magnussen could do. It's happened here before with the way it narrows into turn one. And we're seeing it on board of Alex Albon now. And yeah, it's such a shame. He had a great start, but then, yeah, was in a, on the end of a sandwich, and then into the barriers he went. Yeah, the Aston Martins, what a terrible start for them. As, they're only down to 4th and 5th, but it could have been a lot worse had there not been a crash there and the safety car had not come out. But thankfully did come out, as here's a replay now on board of Esteban Ocon, probably showing the incident. And yeah, there is the incident, and then the tyre falling off. Ocon getting through that well and getting on with it. Also, there was a big moment with Oscar Piastri where he had a big snap of oversteer through turn 3, and I thought it was going to crash into Carlos Sainz, but he somehow didn't. And Piastri also very lucky not to get collected by Kevin Magnussen. As I think also the Haas of Hulkenberg might have some damage to his car, as they're a tyre slowly bouncing away. As red flag. So the race has been red flagged. What a start. So we have a red flag at the beginning of, it'll be what, lap 3 now, basically. As Oscar Piastri is back in the McLaren garage. Don't know if Piastri suffered some sort of damage there that means he's already back in the garage. But yeah, Piastri is in the garage and he's dropped all the way down to 16th place. Also, Ricciardo down the field. So we have a red flag on lap 2 of 71, and this is the order. It is Verstappen, Norris, as Leclerc is now running back to his car, because I think now he wants to get back in his car and get back to the pits. But I think he is going to be very fortunate to do that. But yeah, it's Verstappen, and now now the car's just about lining up in the pit lane. Verstappen will be the leader, Norris second, Hamilton third, Alonso fourth, Stroll fifth, Russell sixth, Perez seventh, Sainz eighth, Ocon in ninth, Tsunoda, what a start for him, and this has been great for him, up to P10. And then you've got Gasly in 11th, Bottas 12th, Zhou in 13th. Car's getting parked in the pit lane. Logan Sargent 14th, Hulkenberg 15th, Piastri 16th, Ricciardo 17th, and yeah, Albon, Magnussen, and Leclerc are all out of the race. As Ricciardo's car also back in the garage, and Ricciardo out of the car, as now they're trying to do repair work on the AlphaTauri. So the McLaren of Piastri and the AlphaTauri of Ricciardo both damaged as well, so they might not even make it back out there. There you go. 3 retirements already, as Leclerc is stood next to his car now, but how on earth are they going to get him back in that car and get him back to the pit lane? It's going to be a miracle, surely. So there you go. I don't think this red flag is going to last too long. Super Kev says, hey Chaz, Leclerc is DNS, not DNF. Nib saying that Leclerc lost hydraulics. Hold on. Yeah, looks like... Hold on. Let me clear my throat. So, what's happened with Leclerc is he spun because he lost the hydraulics and the car basically switched off, and that's what it does. It'll just send you into a spin. So, yeah. The thing is, though, what is it? I think, yeah, with Leclerc, I think I need to put him as a DNS. Did not start. But he is, I think, maybe trying to see if somehow he can get back to the pits. And no, he's now trudging back, and Charles Leclerc is out of the race. What a disaster for the Monegasque driver. Thankfully, the pit lane is not that far away, as he's just got to walk up the hill, and then he can just walk into the pit lane. So, yeah, that was quite a amateur start to the race, I have to say, and was really chaos at the start. But once they get going again, I do expect they will all be on the soft compound tyre, because we didn't really do any racing at all in that Grand Prix. So, or, in the Grand Prix so far. So, yeah. Don't think we're going to see drivers going for really any different compounds. Kevin Magnussen walking back to the garage, and his day, unfortunately, is done. We might yet have a couple more retirements for this race, because Piastri and Ricciardo's cars currently being fixed. We don't know how long the red flag is going to last for. I don't think it will be super long, because all they got to do, clear the cars away and do some slight repair to the barrier, and then we can get going again. So, don't think we'll be too far away from getting back under green flag racing. But it is currently lap 3, and the top 10, and really the order you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, is as is. So we'll see when we are back underway here in Brazil. And let me know in the chat what you thought of the start and what's happened so far in this dramatic race. And what do you think is going to happen after this? Count Bloss says, hey, what happened? How was Lewis third? The two Aston Martins had a horrible start, and that's why Norris and Hamilton got up to second and third. And also Leclerc lost the hydraulics on the formation lap. And that's why Leclerc spun, went into the barriers, and yeah, his car is fucked. And that's why he's now walking back to the pit lane. Leclerc out of the race. As now Verstappen talking to his engineers. And work at McLaren still going on. McLaren. And we'll see if they can get the car ready for getting back out there and getting racing again. But I am just going to quickly mute myself, guys, just to blow my nose and also have a drink to help my throat a bit. So I'll be back with you guys in a couple moments' time. Make sure to keep posting comments in the chat. Let me know what you thought of what's happened so far in this crazy start to the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Right, so let's have a look what you guys are saying. And as well, if you haven't hit the like button yet, make sure to do so. Obviously, it does help the channel and the algorithm. And it does also help me know that you guys enjoy the content. So if you do, smash the like button if you haven't already. Jose says Piastri -1 lap. Um, Technically speaking, yes, he is a lap down because he was already in the garage, and then the cars came back around again, and they're now parked up at the exit of the pit lane. The thing is, though, I think they will let Piastri and Ricciardo unlap themselves if they do get back out there. There's a replay of what happened with Ricciardo, and I the only thing I can see there is that debris has hit some parts of his car and damaged maybe the rear end of the car, but I can't see anything obvious. Lando Norris, good start, up to second, and, well, should now comfortably finish in second, really, once this race gets going. And here's Lewis Hamilton easily passing the two Aston Martins into turn one. But then Norris forcing his way up the inside. Great start for the two British drivers. As here is a replay of Lance Stroll, who had a terrible start, didn't really go anywhere, and was swamped, really. And was overtaken by Norris, Hamilton, and teammate Alonso. Not normal for those two drivers, especially Stroll and Alonso, to have such a bad start. Normally, them two are the two best starters on the grid. Here's a replay of Perez, who had a really good start getting past Sainz, and then was up the inside of Russell. Then went round the outside of Russell at turn 2. And then I think they were side by side going into turn 4. Yeah, Perez pulled to the inside. Then safety car got called about through the apex of turn 4, and he had to let Russell back through, which was unfortunate. But Perez should, after the restart, pass him pretty easily. Alonso there in the garage, shaking his head, looks pretty depressed at what he's witnessed there as Leclerc wipes himself with a towel. Now gets ready to talk to the media. He is out of the race. And that sums Leclerc's season up. He has had some good races this year, but he has not been very lucky in 2023. Of course, if you remember back the start of the season, he was in third place, comfortably in third place, and then his car conked out, and he ended up retiring from that. And then at the next Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia, immediately had to take a 10-place grid penalty because of a new, I think, ICE. So that really just set the tone for what's been an unlucky season for Leclerc. I also will say, though, that it has not been his best season. This has not been the best version of Charles Leclerc we've seen, but let's be honest, he has been a bit unlucky this season. Yeah, out of the race, unfortunately. Frank saying Sainz has been better this year. Yeah, I'd have to agree. Even though Carlos has had probably a bit better luck, I think Carlos has been consistently, well, just more consistent than Leclerc has been. But yeah, Ricciardo, problem for him was, flailing tyre hitting his car. That's what's caused the damage. And with Piastri, judging by the snap of oversteer he had in turn 3, clearly something to do with the rear wing or something like that. As they're just doing some further repairs to the barriers. And yeah, hopefully not too much longer until we find out when we're going to be back underway here in Brazil. But of course, when we are back underway, it will be a standing start. So we could have more chaos into turn 1. There is Gasly in the Alpine garage on the radio. Garage just trying to talk to the engineers. Yeah. Slow-mo there that Karun is showing on Sky F1 of Ocon narrowly missing the debris. And thankfully for Ocon, he's up in 9th place, but I'd be surprised if he could hang on to that. And yeah, just a replay of what it was like from Kevin Magnussen's on board as he was caught in a sandwich. And yeah, or was it Was it Magnussen? Or was it Hulkenberg that was caught in the sandwich? It was Hulkenberg, not Magnussen. Sorry, I thought it was Magnussen for some reason. It was actually Hulkenberg that was the one who was in the sandwich and somehow got away with it. Albon and Magnussen did not. Here's a replay of Ricardo. The rear end of his car being hit by debris, and the debris being a flailing tire. As they're just showing it slow-mo Sky F1, it fly up in the air and hit the AlphaTauri. Ricardo a bit lucky there that didn't go near his head, I have to say. Teas says or asks, what do you think about Perez's seat? Will he have it 2024 still? Probably, yeah. But whether he will have it for the entire of 2024 is a different story. But yeah, I think he will probably have the Red Bull seat next season. As they're just showing a million different angles of the start, really. Because in terms of action so far, that's all we can look at. As Max Verstappen, crash helmet back on, gloves coming back on. Looks like we will be back underway. Not too far from now because Verstappen clearly is what do you call it? Is getting back ready to get in the car, and so is Lewis Hamilton. So clearly they've been told that we'll be back underway soon. And yeah, Chris Medland has just tweeted out that the race will resume in what? At 14:31 local time, which is in what, 8 minutes from now, I think. So we'll be back underway 8 minutes time for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Radio replay, as I'll just quickly once again blow my nose as we now count down until we're back underway here. And remember, it's only lap 3. We've still got a long way to go in this race in Brazil. As they just showed a team radio replay there of Carlos Sainz, and he said on the radio, I hope we bin this clutch when we get back to Maranello. And then the engineer said, yeah, we'll talk about this after, please. Clearly unhappy with the clutch. Unhappy with the start he had. As just further replays of the start from different angles. Yeah, Gasly there was side by side with the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda, who ended up going from 16th up to P10, or 15th rather, up to P10. So a brilliant start for Tsunoda as Ricciardo is getting seatbelted back into his car, and looks like they may have fixed whatever was wrong with the AlphaTauri. Let's hope they will be allowed to unlap themselves for the start of this race. So the restart, really, of this race. But just to say quickly, I can see we're on 87 likes. If you haven't hit the like button yet, make sure to do so. Let's try and get up to 100 likes for today's stream. That would be great if we could do that. And again, if you do enjoy the content, then that's a great way to show that you do enjoy the content here. As yeah, they're just showing Sky F1 an interview with Leclerc on the radio. Not on the radio, on the TV, sorry. And he looks absolutely miserable. As Super Kev saying in the chat, LFC, stop complaining. You could do worse supporting Man United. That is true. Definitely could do worse. Or even my team, Chelsea. Because we're, what, 15th? Are we now? 16th? Something like that in the live table. And tomorrow we play the league leaders away from home. So, yeah. You definitely could do worse than being a Liverpool fan right now. Yeah, the race will resume in about 4.5 minutes from now. So we're not that far away from the resumption of racing. And, well, by the time we get racing again, it'll be lap 4 out of 71. And we'll basically still have the entire race to go. So we haven't really missed too much from this race so far. As Alexander Albon back in the Williams garage. And hopefully it's all okay after that crash. As yeah, all the drivers now back in their cars. And with Piastri and Ricciardo, I'll let you know how they're doing what do you call it? We get back underway properly in a minute's time. Sergio Perez just properly getting belted into his car. And yeah, just to confirm with Leclerc, he had a hydraulic issue and it caused, as Nib's saying in the chat, caused the engine to lock the rears and send him into the wall. It is something that does happen when the engine cuts out, unfortunately. And Nib also saying, Ricciardo good to go, but we'll have to start from the pit lane. No update on Piastri as of yet. Yeah, we'll see. When they get released from the pit lane, whether Piastri goes with them. But yeah, we didn't quite see Piastri his start, did we? But it did look like he got hit on the rear end, but we didn't quite see it enough like we did the other starts. Thankfully, still a packed crowd awaiting a great Grand Prix. And now Lando Norris is up to second. It means we could have a proper fight for the win today because McLaren do have good pace. So watch out for Lando Norris in second. As we are 2 laps away. 2 laps away, sorry. 2 minutes away from getting back underway here in Brazil. And when we get going again, it will be lap 3 out of 71. But when we restart properly, it will be lap 4 out of 71. So, yeah. And they've just confirmed race control. It will be a standing start. We're just looking back at Max Verstappen on the TV broadcast. And also, in terms of tyre choice, I expect everybody will be on the soft compound tyre because We haven't done any racing really so far. There is Daniel Ricciardo being released almost from the garage. We'll see whether he'll be a lap down or not. And can't see anything about Piastri at the minute. Ricciardo, yeah, will be released very soon. And his teammate, the other AlphaTauri, Yuki Tsunoda, up in P10. What a start he had. And he now has, Tsunoda, after the great pace of yesterday, he has a brilliant opportunity to score some big points for AlphaTauri and pull themselves a lot closer to Williams in the championship. By the way, just want to say as well quickly, apologies about my nose. It is quite blocked up, but because of the circumstances of what I've had today, as Max Verstappen comes back out on the track, yeah, because of the circumstances of today, plus it is pretty cold outside, there's nothing really I can do, unfortunately. So, yeah. I will try my best, as always. But we are back underway, and what this will basically be is another formation lap. Then they'll line up in their positions, and then we'll get back underway in Brazil properly. As they all come out to track. Everyone, by the way, on the soft compound tyre. So, no surprises there as we look back at Lewis Hamilton coming into the middle sector on this second formation lap, pretty much. Max Verstappen just coming into the second half of the lap and the final few corners here at Interlagos. Lando Norris just behind and looking pretty quick for the rest of this race. As Ricciardo does come out, and I think that Piastri ahead of him. Yes, it is. So Piastri and Ricciardo are out on the track. That is good to see. But they are quite far behind on this formation lap, I have to say. As Max Verstappen, Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton approaching the pit straight, the proper bit of the pit straight where the starting grid is. As we're looking back now at Carlos Sainz, the only Ferrari remaining here, and he's only in 8th place. Not a good day for the Scuderia, not a good weekend for the Scuderia. As it will be lap 4 out of 71. And let's get back underway for this Sao Paulo Grand Prix as the top half of the field just lining up now. As looks like Oscar Piastri is on a set of mediums, I think I saw that. Yeah, Piastri and Ricciardo will have to line up at the exit of the pit lane, and apparently they are not a lap down. But the cars are now lined up. The lights are back on. Here we go. Back underway. And the lights are out, and we are back underway in Brazil. And Max Verstappen again gets a brilliant start. Lewis Hamilton, good start for him. But Norris holds on just about, does he? Yes. As one of the Aston Martins has had a terrible start. As looks like George Russell is up to 4th place, I think, or 5th place, as Alonso trying to come back, and Lewis Hamilton goes up the inside. A brilliant move by Fernando Alonso, who is up to 3rd with Hamilton 4th and Russell in 5th as Hamilton tries to come back. And Alonso, what a move by Alonso down the inside at turn 4. With not a lot of grip out there on the track, but it is. Verstappen, Norris, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Perez, Stroll, Sainz, Ocon and Tsunoda side by side, and then Gasly with Hulkenberg, I think, up to P12. As Ocon and Tsunoda still side by side through the end of the middle sector. Tsunoda goes up the inside, and Ocon, I think that is, kind of squeezing Tsunoda. Tsunoda has a poor exit and loses position to Gasly, and might lose further position into turn 1 as we begin lap 5 in Brazil. And lots of racing going on in the background as there's cars side by side everywhere, as Stroll and Sainz side by side through turn 1. And Lance Stroll keeps ahead, but it's actually Gasly up in 9th place. So Gasly 9th, Ocon 10th, Tsunoda 11th still. As Albon and Magnussen, no further investigation for their incidents. Yeah, Gasly 9th, Ocon 10th, Tsunoda 11th, Hulkenberg 12th, Bottas 13th, Joe 14th, Sargent 15th, and yeah, Piastri and Ricciardo, unfortunately, are a lap down, so they are basically out of this race unless we get another safety car. So there you go. That is the order on lap 5 as Max Verstappen 1.1 seconds clear of Lando Norris, who's almost a second clear of Alonso behind, as the pack still close. And we are in for a good race here, as usual, in Brazil. As Carlos Sainz following closely. As Lance Stroll getting a good run on Sergio Perez into turn 1, but not close enough to go for it. As Valtteri Bottas tries to have a go at Hulkenberg, but nothing doing. But yeah, we are on lap 6 out of 71, and DRS is now enabled. As Russell saying on the radio, let's work together, I won't attack in these early laps. Hamilton at the moment 1.2 seconds behind Alonso, and Russell, if anything, being held up. As Lando Norris closes the gap massively to Verstappen. The gap only 0.7 of a second as he entered the middle sector. Lando, super quick so far. And this is exactly what McLaren needed. As there's a replay of the second start. And another brilliant start from Verstappen. Hamilton and Norris were side by side. Hamilton did lock up and ended up going a bit wider than he would have wanted. Alonso hung on well around the outside of turn 1 to, or outside around the outside of turn 2 rather. And they got a great run on Hamilton, and Hamilton so slow down the straight to turn 4, as we've seen this weekend. The Mercedes has been very draggy, and that is why Alonso overtook. Without DRS as well. Is a replay of the onboard from Norris's point of view. And yeah, pretty good restart there. As on lap 7, Lando Norris was only 0.3 of a second behind and has done the fastest lap of 1:14.8. Lando Norris is here, and he wants his first win in Formula 1. Last year we saw Russell get his first win. Can Lando get it today? As we've got quite a train developing behind Lewis Hamilton of, well, the entire field, pretty much. So, yeah, not looking good for Lewis Hamilton. He doesn't have any pace right now. And if anything, I think Russell should be allowed through, because Lewis Hamilton does not seem quick. As Lando Norris still keeping up with Max Verstappen and will still have DRS as they begin lap 8 of 71. And I really hope that Lando can keep up, as, Lando forces Max to defend, and he's getting a great run now on Verstappen. Lando Norris properly going for it here to try and get into the lead, as he's got a great run now down to turn 4. Max defends to the inside, Norris pulls to the outside, but he's going to try a switchback instead, but it's not quite going to work. But that McLaren, look how quick it is. All over the back of his gearbox. And he's already pulled away a lot from Alonso and Hamilton behind. Incredible speed by the McLaren. And then, like I was going to say, I really hope McLaren can keep this up, because this would be a great battle today for the win between two top drivers. As Lando, dropping back a bit too much on this lap. He's dropped over a second behind. I wonder whether he's cooked his tyres. Maybe a bit too much. As, yeah, he's pulled away Verstappen quite a bit on this lap, and Lando will not get the DRS again. But remember, he did close the gap quite a bit before without DRS. So, yeah, we will see what happens. But your top 10 on lap 9. Verstappen, Norris, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Perez, Stroll, Sainz, Gasly, Ocon, and still a gigantic train behind the two Mercedes cars who have no pace at all. And yeah, Norris, I don't think he really could have been any more aggressive there going around the outside of turn 4. He didn't have enough of his car alongside really to go fully around the outside. As yeah, the two Mercedes cars are struggling so much. Hamilton is 2.6 seconds behind Alonso. And he's pretty much got the entire field tucked up right behind him. I have not seen Mercedes be this slow in a race since the V8 era, where they were always very slow on a Sunday because they burned their tyres to death. And that looks like what's happening here, plus a lack of straight line speed. As Sergio Perez getting a bit close to George Russell ahead. Max Verstappen now 1.7 seconds clear of Norris. So unfortunately, Norris has dropped a bit further back on lap 10 of 71. As Russell saying, I'm having to push too hard in turn 11 and turn 12. And probably complaining that he's having to really push too hard on these tyres to keep ahead of the cars behind, who look really quick. As, yeah, this train behind Hamilton continues, and Lewis Hamilton continues to lose a few tenths of a second per lap to Fernando Alonso in third place, who, if anything, Alonso looks like he's gaining on Lando Norris ahead of him. So Alonso starting to really come into it. Yeah, we are obviously on lap 10 of 71. As, yeah, these two Mercedes cars do not look quick. And they look like they're going to have a very difficult race today. And, well, luckily for Russell, he has the DRS from Hamilton ahead to protect himself from Sergio Perez behind. But I'm not sure that's going to help too much as they go down to turn 1 on lap 11. As Perez gaining. He's going to go for it, is he? Pulls to the outside. Russell kind of moves to the inside as Valtteri Bottas overtakes Nico Hülkenberg for 12th. And Ricciardo passes Piastri, but those two are a lap down. So, let me update that. Ricciardo on the soft, Piastri on the medium. And yeah, those two need a safety car, because that's the only way they're going to get back onto the same lap. As Lando Norris now 2.1 seconds behind Verstappen. Alonso about 1.4 behind Lando. Lewis Hamilton 3.3 seconds behind Alonso and continuing to lose. Really, 2 to 3 tenths of a second a lap. As Sergio Perez has got so much more pace than Russell. If only he could use it. And maybe if he gets a good exit here. Does he? Not quite. But Russell, thankfully for him, will have the DRS advantage. Well, not advantage, but he'll have that from Hamilton ahead. Or actually, he didn't. Hamilton has pulled over a second clear. So that's going to put Russell in a much more pressurized position. As Verstappen continuing just about to pull away. And yeah, Russell not getting DRS from the back of Hamilton anymore. As in the background we can see Ocon and Tsunoda quite close in the race for P10. And really, Tsunoda, if he's going to get a great result today, needs to pass Ocon pretty quickly and then get in this train. There's a replay of Bottas overtaking Hulkenberg for P12. And very simple, round the outside and gets the move done. Carlos Sainz here has got Pierre Gasly all over the back of him. And I think the higher tyre deg is definitely helping teams like Aston Martin and Alpine, who do tend to be pretty nice on their tyres, despite having a lack of pace. On lap 13, Verstappen 2.2 seconds clear of Norris. And Russell having to defend quite late against Perez as Tsunoda in the background trying to pass Ocon. As Zhou passing Hulkenberg for 13th as Haas, the remaining car, dropping back. And Tsunoda is up to 10th. So Yuki Tsunoda back into the points. And now as a couple seconds ahead of him to join this train behind Lewis Hamilton. And the train behind Hamilton includes Russell, Perez, Stroll, Sainz, Gasly. And soon it should be Tsunoda in what is a quick AlphaTauri car. Max Verstappen 2.3 seconds clear of Norris out front. Gap is still pretty close, but yeah. A shame that Lando lost a bit of speed for a few laps. But if you can keep the gap about as it is, then maybe you can do an undercut later on to try and come back at Max Verstappen. As Logan Sargent right on Hulkenberg's gearbox here. And surely will overtake Hulkenberg for P14 as Perez down the inside of Russell. And he's up to 5th. But he doesn't get Perez a great exit from turn 1 and 2. And down to turn 4. Can Perez hold on? No, he can't. But no, he forces his way back up the inside with so much more grip. And Perez back into 5th. And should now get right after Lewis Hamilton. As yeah, Logan Sargent is now 14th in the sole remaining Williams. As Russell asking a question there, I think about strategy or something. Mercedes in a lot of trouble as Lewis Hamilton almost 5 seconds behind Alonso, continuing to drop so much time to the top 3. And Mercedes, at this pace, they have absolutely no chance of finishing on the podium because their pace is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Their pace is more of a midfield team, if anything. Russell has DRS, but doesn't really gain anything on Sergio Perez on now lap 15 of 71. As Esteban Ocon comes into the pit lane. And he will come out in 15th. So I'll let you know what tyre compound he goes on to. As yeah, this train continues behind now the Mercedes really of Russell. As we're looking at a replay now of Sergio Perez and how he overtook Russell. And Russell didn't even defend. He just let him go. And then I think tried to get a better exit from turn 1 and 2 to get back past, and briefly he did, but Perez had the extra braking capacity to get up to 5th as Stroll and Sainz there very close in turn 10, where Russell passed Norris yesterday in the sprint. Carlos Sainz definitely quicker than Stroll, as Ocon has come out on a set of medium compound tyres. We'll see if that triggers the first round of pit stops. As Verstappen, 2.3 seconds still clear of Norris. So Lando is keeping the gap nicely at just over 2 seconds. And is not letting Verstappen get away. As now Zhou Guanyu hits for Alfa Romeo. Zhou should come out in 15th. See what tyres he goes on to as well. Hamilton now over 6 seconds behind Alonso. I cannot believe Mercedes are this bad. They're even worse now than they were in the sprint. Incredible. As Zhou in 15th. Let me see what tyre he will come out on. He is on the medium compound tyre. No surprise there. Quickly. Update that. So, yeah, there you go. As we're on lap 17, and Yuki Tsunoda has got some sort of problem because he has dropped a couple seconds somewhere. He's made some sort of mistake or something, because Valtteri Bottas is now up to 10th place out of nowhere. So Bottas up to 10th. Tsunoda now has Logan Sargent right on his tail as Sergio Perez right on the back of Lewis Hamilton straight away, as Hamilton continuing to struggle. And now Russell has dropped over a second behind Perez and has a train behind him. And yeah, what's this? That is Piastri unlapping himself from Hulkenberg, but he is still last of all the runners. As here is, right, this is Tsunoda. Touched the grass on the entry to turn 10, nearly spun the car, and then lost position to Bottas and had a bit of trouble getting it back in gear. Poor mistake, and needs to get his head down now, because he has to score points in that car. As on lap 18, Max Verstappen 2.8 seconds clear of Lando Norris. So Verstappen just about doing enough right now. As Perez gaining on Hamilton up to turn 1. Hamilton defends. Does he? No. Perez goes for the inside line. And Perez is up to 4th. Will Hamilton come back at him? We'll see. And if they can show the on-track action, that would be great. And they finally do, as Hamilton tries to come back and out Perez, but Sergio Perez keeps ahead. So Perez up to 4th as Logan Sargent pits in the Williams, and Logan should come out in 15th place as Hamilton still trying to get back past Perez into turn 6, but nothing doing. So yeah, Sargent should come out on the medium compound tyre, you would imagine. So yeah. And actually, no, he's come out on the soft. That's interesting. So Williams going aggressive with Logan. But the top 3, I have to say, look pretty comfortable. Alonso, his pace is very good in 3rd. Sergio Perez, 8 seconds behind Alonso. He should, though, now start to gain on Alonso because the Red Bull is quicker. But yeah, Alonso's had a very comfortable race here as Lewis Hamilton pits on lap 19. And surely he's going to go into a set of mediums. And yes, he does. And he should drop, as Valtteri Bottas pits as well, he should drop Hamilton down to, you know what, he might actually lose position to Ocon, because Ocon wasn't a million miles behind and he has pitted a bit earlier. As Ocon, where is he? No, Ocon just a bit further behind. So Hamilton will come out in 11th place. Bottas is going to come out, I think, 13th. So Hamilton will be in 11th. There's actually, no, Bottas comes out in 14th, just behind teammate Zhou, who pitted earlier. So, right, Hamilton on the medium, Ocon on the medium, Zhou on the medium, Bottas on the medium, Sargent on the soft, as we're on lap 20 of 71. And, well, Mercedes being forced to pit early because their tyres are just falling off so quickly, as George Russell now pits. So Lance Stroll up to 5th, Sainz 6th, Gasly up to 7th. Gasly, by the way, having a great race for Alpine. As Russell goes on to a set of mediums. And Russell should come out in... what? Probably in between Hamilton and Ocon. Let's see. As Hamilton goes through, and Russell will remain ahead of Ocon and is on the mediums as well. So we've got a lot of drivers moving on to the mediums. Lap 20. As Hamilton saying, I've got a problem with my left front. It's starting to steer right. Yeah, not quite sure what that is, but I'm sure they'll just see on the telemetry whether there's a proper issue going on. As we're on lap 21, still 50 laps to go, as Sergio Perez now comes in for a new set of boots. That promotes Stroll up to 4th. I've got to say, Lance Stroll's not having too bad of a race. Now settled down, and Carlos Sainz not quite pressurising him as much as Perez goes on to a set of mediums. And Perez, will he come out ahead of Hamilton? I'm not sure he will. As he exits the pit lane now. And he's got to get on with it. And we're not actually going to see if he comes out ahead of Hamilton. And no, Hamilton comes out ahead, I think, just. Yep, he does. So Sergio Perez now down in 10th place. Just behind Lewis Hamilton. Everyone now moving on to mediums. As Valtteri Bottas, I've noticed, has overtook Joe. So he's up to 13th. As we're on lap 22 out of 71. As Carlos Sainz still within a second of Stroll. But Gasly still within a second of Sainz. And Pierre Gasly, what a race he's having. That Alpine has not been quick at all this weekend and really should not be fighting up there with the Ferrari of Sainz. So, brilliant performance by Gasly. Sainz is desperately trying to get a good run through turn 1 and 2 so he can have a go at Stroll, but is he getting enough? Not quite into turn 4 as Nico Hülkenberg now pits for Haas F1. Hamilton up to 8th, Perez 9th, Russell 10th. Hülkenberg should drop down to 15th place. So let me just update that Hamilton, of course, on the medium. Sargent on the soft. Hülkenberg, you would imagine, will be on the medium compound tyre. As this, great race continues as Sergio Perez, and no, Hülkenberg comes out the soft tyre, which I am surprised by. Sergio Perez still stuck behind Hamilton, but he looks so much quicker, so much more grip through the middle of the corners. And this is not really going to be competitive, is it? As Lance Stroll told to box, and he does. And Stroll should come out in... what? Probably in between Russell and Ocon. Maybe just behind Ocon. We'll see. As here comes Perez on Hamilton. Round the outside. Sergio Perez. Can he get it done? Not quite. Hamilton forces his way back up the inside. But Perez surely will now get a great exit. And he does. And surely Hamilton cannot hold him back. Perez round the outside. DRS open. And Perez is past Hamilton. As Lance Stroll comes out just ahead of Ocon. That worked out very well for Aston Martin. Just about ahead of Ocon, who pitted quite a bit earlier. So Stroll in 10th, and Lewis Hamilton is now down to 8th place. Sergio Perez is on the medium compound tyre, and Zhou Guan Yu is out of the race. I don't know why, but he is parked up in his pit stop area. And they're now wheeling him back in, and Zhou Guanyu is out of the race. 4 retirements now in this Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Let me just update that he is out. And Piastri, obviously, on the medium. With Sergeant Ricardo, Hulkenberg and Ricardo on the soft compound tyre. As the top 6 of Verstappen, Norris, Alonso, Sainz, Gasly and Tsunoda stay out. The top 3, they don't need to pit because, I mean, not really under pressure right now. And really, they just need to focus on extending the stint length as much as they can. Max Verstappen is going to do another lap as he begins lap 25 of 71. Remember, we're not even halfway through this Grand Prix yet. As Mercedes telling Russell we are going to plan B. I wonder if that is a 3-stopper. Could be, as Lewis Hamilton has already dropped 2 seconds behind Sergio Perez. As here is Lance Stroll right on the back of George Russell. This is for position. And he's gaining so much on Russell. And Russell literally lets him go. Lance Stroll up to 9th. And on the fresher tyres, Mercedes are about to fall victim to the Aston Martin. And who would have thought this? Aston Martin, much faster than Mercedes today. Something we've not said for quite a while. And Lance Stroll having his first proper good race in a very long time, which is good to see. As Lando Norris, by the way, still not letting Max get too far away. The gap is only 3.7 seconds. As Alonso told to box. Alonso almost 14 seconds clear of Carlos Sainz. And Alonso has had a brilliant race today. And yep, he comes in, and Alonso should come out ahead of Sergio Perez in 6th place. The mediums go on. Yeah, good pit stop. And Alonso, yeah, should come out in 6th. And we'll see, with it being on a bit fresher tyres, will help Alonso defend against Perez. Now exiting the pit lane. Alonso, yeah, he is ahead of Perez by, what, 3 seconds? 3.5 seconds, something like that. As Oscar Piastri has just pitted as well. And is now on a set of soft tyres. And of course, a lap down in 16th place. And only the top 14 on the lead lap. Lap now 27 at 71. And Lando Norris actually gaining on Max Verstappen. The gap now down to 3.5 seconds. Still a good battle out front, and Norris keeping Verstappen very honest, as both Max and Lando are about a pit stop ahead of Carlos Sainz, who now comes in. So Lando Norris and McLaren, they have the freedom, as Gasly and Tsunoda pit as well. They have got the freedom, McLaren, to pit and come out still in 2nd place if they want to try the undercut. As the AlphaTauri there, very close with the Ferrari, and the AlphaTauri's not even come into its pit box yet. As Lance Stroll ahead of Lewis Hamilton. And let's just see where these cars come out, as Tsunoda and Gasly are going to come out very far down the field. Tsunoda comes out in 13th. Gasly will come out in 12th, but they're on much fresher tyres now, so watch out for those two. Carlos Sainz is now in 9th place. So everyone is on the medium compound tyre, except for the top 2, and Logan Sargent, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo and Piastri. So let me just quickly Update the tyres. So Alonso on the medium, Perez on the medium. As here comes Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen is pitted as well. So they've both gone for the pit stop. Both gone for a set of medium tyres. And so they maintain position going into the second stint of the race. So, yeah, the top, well, all of the top 10 are on the medium compound tyre. And then you've got Logan Sargent on the soft, Gasly on the medium, Tsunoda on the medium as well. So everybody on the medium except for Sargent, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, and Piastri. As yes, Sainz very close there with Tsunoda. Don't know if that's going to be an unsafe release or not. Let's see a off-board replay. I think they might get away with that, but we'll see what happens with that. As now Lewis Hamilton has fallen into the clutches of his teammate. As Mercedes are struggling so much. 6th and 7th, which doesn't sound like the end of the world given the season they've had, but there are cars behind them that are probably going to catch up to them. Carlos Sainz, for example, possibly Gasly and Tsunoda as well. So Mercedes have got a real struggle ahead of them as we're on lap 29. And Ricciardo is now on a set of medium tyres in 15th place. As on to lap 29, will Russell decide to overtake Lewis Hamilton? He's going to try and go for the inside line. Hamilton moves to kind of block it as Max Verstappen, by the way. 5.1 seconds clear of Norris. So Max has had a brilliant outlap. As Russell gaining on Hamilton down to turn 4, but still not close enough. But what do Mercedes do? I think really, if you're going to tell anyone to be ahead of anyone, you need to tell Lewis to let Russell through, because Russell in this race has looked quicker than Hamilton. Lewis has not looked very quick. Not his fault. The car is dreadful. As the battle rages on and they continue to lose a lot of lap time to the 2 Red Bulls, 2 Aston Martins, and McLaren ahead. As here comes Carlos Sainz. And this is just a replay of him overtaking Ocon. And I'll just update that quickly. So Sainz up to 8th place. And Carlos Sainz about 3 seconds behind Russell. So not too far away. We'll get a battle between the Ferrari and the 2 Mercedes cars. On lap 30 we are now at 71. Russell still having a look and overtaking Hamilton. And well, they're killing each other's tyres really in this battle. And well, maybe that's the plan, is just to push as hard as possible, see what happens, because they might be on now a 3-stop strategy as Pierre Gasly has passed Logan Sargent for 11th place. So Gasly up to 11th. Of course, on the medium, Sargent in 12th on the soft. Got to say, though, Logan Sargent is having a good race. He's only a couple seconds away from a point right now. So, having a good race, Logan. And we'll see how his race plays out later. As Sergio Perez is gaining on Fernando Alonso. Not super quickly, but he is cutting the gap down. It was 2.4 seconds. It's now down to 2.2, 2.1 seconds. So Perez slowly but surely gaining on the Aston Martin of Alonso. But both Aston Martins here look very good. The first race, probably since Holland, where Aston Martin have genuinely looked quick. Maybe you can say Qatar, but, I mean, they weren't that quick, really, there. As Russell still held up by his teammate, as Carlos Sainz behind, catching by about 4 to 5 tenths of a second per lap. Here's a replay of Gasly passing Logan Sargent. Great overtake. Well, not great overtake, but just simple overtake by Gasly. But Gasly, again, having a great race. And he's now right on the tail of Valtteri Bottas. And should be overtaking him soon. But Bottas is also right up behind Ocon, who pitted very early. So, yeah, we will see what happens in the battle as we are on lap 32 out of 71. And will Mercedes call team orders, or will they just let the drivers keep going as they are? We'll see. Carlos Sainz gaining even more behind. The gap now down to just 2 seconds. Between Sainz and Russell as here comes Gasly on Bottas as Ocon comes in. And Pierre Gasly round the outside is up to 9th. Gasly continuing what's been a very good, I think, second half of the season. As Ocon will come out 14th place. I'll let you know what compound it is in a moment. But that pushes Logan Sargent up to 11th. Tsunoda 12th. Hulkenberg 13th. Logan Sargent, the highest placed runner on the soft tyre, as Ocon is on the soft tyre now. Max Verstappen begins lap 33. Lando Norris 5.2, 5.3 seconds behind. That's now Carlos Sainz just over a second behind Russell, and it is, well, inevitable that Carlos is going to overtake Russell and Hamilton. There's nothing these two Mercedes cars can do. I also am curious to see if Pierre Gasly in ninth, who's on quite a bit fresher tyres than the two Mercedes, whether he will be able to catch the two Mercedes cars. Because, of course, he was in that train, Gasly, behind the two Silver Arrow cars. Find out. Gasly, I think, is slowly catching Sainz. So, yeah, that might be possible. Mercedes, really, today, a midfield team. A very poor weekend for them. Sergio Perez only 1.4 seconds behind Alonso now. For that battle for third heating up. Surely Sergio will take third because the Red Bull is a lot quicker. As we're on lap 34 now. Out of 71. Sainz now within a second of Russell. And does Russell have the DRS from the back of Hamilton? I don't think he will. That is going to be... I think, yeah, it is going to be very costly for George Russell. Sainz gaining a lot into turn 1. Not close enough to overtake, but he might be close enough to set up an overtake into turn 4. They come through turn 3. And no, I think he might be just a bit too far away, Sainz, as Tsunoda passes Logan Sargent for 11th place. Yeah, Carlos just too far back, but he will very quickly pass him in the next couple minutes. No doubt about that. Tsunoda up to P11. Logan Sargent still having a good race, I think. He's still only, 2.5 seconds away from a point. So can't really criticise Logan at the minute. He's doing really the best he can. As we are on lap 35. And we are about halfway through this Sao Paulo Grand Prix. As Carlos Sainz a lot closer to Russell on this occasion. And surely he will pass Russell into turn 1. Will Russell defend? No, he will not. Carlos Sainz up to 7th place. Russell won't be able to come back at him. Just wanted to say quickly, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because we do qualifying and race watch-alongs for every Grand Prix. And of course, we'll do the same for the last couple Grand Prix of this season. Next Grand Prix in 2 weeks is in Las Vegas. And of course, we'll be doing plenty of watch-alongs and coverage of the 2024 Formula 1 season. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe because this is a great place to keep bang up to date with everything going on in Formula 1. And if you have not hit the like button yet, make sure to do so. We're at 110 likes. Let's try, what do you call it? Let's try and get up to, I don't know, 120, 130 likes if we can in the next, say, half an hour. Yeah, if you haven't hit the like button yet and you do enjoy the content, make sure to hit the like because it does, of course, show me whether you guys enjoy the content or not, as we are on lap 36. And Lando Norris, by the way, is starting to gain on Verstappen. The gap now under 5 seconds. The gap now 4.8. Now 4.9 seconds. So Lando not quite letting Verstappen get away too much. As Sainz continuing to catch Hamilton. Sergio Perez just over a second behind Alonso. So that will be a battle to look out for in a moment. As Tsunoda is right behind Bottas in the fight for 10th. Critical battle that is. And here we go. Tsunoda round the outside, down to turn 4, and he's up to P10. At the moment, AlphaTauri heading for a point, which would at least put them only 8 points behind Williams in the battle for 7th, with only 2 races to go after this weekend. As Lando Norris, now we're on lap 37, does a new fastest lap, a 1:14.8. And he is giving it his all. Wasn't that much quicker than Verstappen on that lap, but still. Good to see McLaren so quick in this race. As a bit further behind this battle between Alonso and Perez, we've got Sainz and Hamilton. Are they going to show it? And here we go. Exit of turn 2 into turn 3. And surely Carlos Sainz will pass Hamilton down to turn 4. The Ferrari, a monster in a straight line. And yes, he does it. Carlos Sainz up to 6th place. And now has 4.5 seconds to catch Lance Stroll. Who, remember, he pitted later than Stroll. So now has the fresher tyres. So should have the advantage in catching Stroll in the battle for 5th. Yeah, Sainz right in the slipstream, and the Ferrari so much faster than the Mercedes in a straight line. As now Max Verstappen responds with the fastest lap and pulls the gap over 5 seconds. That was a 1:14.6 for Verstappen. As Alonso actually pulling away from Sergio Perez, the gap's gone back up to 1.5 seconds. So Alonso going some great pace and driving very, very well. And this is why Alonso, for me, has been one of the best drivers this season, because no matter how good or bad the car has been, he's been getting the best out of it. And he's been one of the most consistent drivers this season. And this is just a clear indication as to the great year he's had, because Aston Martin have had quite a bad second half of the season yet. With 33, 34 laps to go. He's currently heading for another podium as Esteban Ocon has overtaken Nico Hülkenberg for 13th. As Verstappen about to start lap 39. He's been lapping at about the same speed as Norris on this lap. If not Lando, a tad quicker. Yeah, they are still pushing out front. Good little battle that's going on up there. As Alonso 3rd is about 12 seconds behind Norris. Perez 1.5 behind. Stroll about 5.5 seconds behind Perez. Carlos Sainz about 4.5 seconds behind Stroll. Hamilton 1.5 seconds behind Sainz. Russell 2.5 behind Hamilton. And yes, Pierre Gasly is only 1.7 seconds behind Russell, so they're going to have even further humiliation in a moment, because Gasly looks like he's going to overtake the 2 Mercedes cars as well. How bad? And yeah, Mercedes at the moment, Lewis Hamilton is... How far is he off the lead? 10.5, 10.5. Yeah, Lewis is about what? 27, 28 seconds off the lead after 39 laps. Now 40 laps. They're pretty bad. Max Verstappen begins lap 40. And yeah, Verstappen and Norris out front are basically lapping at the same pace. And Norris pulling away from Alonso by about a second per lap. So Max and Lando in a race of their own. Great battle out front, even though there's no on-track racing at the moment. Yeah, just race just settling down now. And I think what we're awaiting really is the second round, the second and final round of pit stops, because everyone a bit spaced out now. And yeah, no real battles going on as Logan Sargent is up to 11th, and that's because Valtteri Bottas has pitted. So Bottas will come out in 14th place. And he's been told to retire the car. Oh dear. So both Alfa Romeos out in Brazil. What an amount of retirements we've had today. That's the 5th DNF or retirement, non-finish, whatever you want to call it, of the race. Quite incredible. As let me just update the the tyre graphics quickly. So Sargent on the soft, Ocon on the soft, Hulkenberg on the soft, Ricciardo on the medium, Piastri on the soft. Ricciardo, the only positive for him is that he stayed ahead of Piastri for the entire race, but still a lap down on everybody else on lap 41 now, and still they are praying, those two, for a safety car, which doesn't look likely at the moment. Alonso continues to pull away from Perez. Perez 2 seconds now behind Alonso. So brilliant pace from Fernando as Pierre Gasly now within a second of George Russell. And this is going to get embarrassing because, well, Mercedes have been so much better and quicker than Alpine this season. Now, are going to have to be overtaken by the Alpine. Gasly, once again, having another good race in Sao Paulo. Not quite 2019, but a good race nonetheless. As we're now on board with Gasly, who's just trying to keep up with Russell. Looks like he's dropped over a second behind. And yeah, Gasly and the Alpines have had the best straight line speed this weekend, purely because they've gone for a low drag setup. Normally, their straight line speed is about the worst. And you can see, even without DRS, he is gaining so much. Or he might even have DRS, I'm not quite sure. But still, gaining so much on the Mercedes, when normally it'll be the other way round. As Gasly still on the hunt for more points. And if Gasly could finish in 7th place, I think that would be a great result for him. Especially for the team, who've had a pretty good second half of the season. Obviously had a podium in Holland, a few good points finishes in Qatar, Singapore, Texas. Look like they're heading for one here as well. We're on lap 43 out of 71. Gasly a lot closer to Russell on this occasion as they come out turn 10 and into Jinsao, the final corner of turn 12. And yeah, I think Russell's going to struggle here to defend from Gasly as they come through the climb up to the pit straight. And Gasly will DRS open, gaining so much on Russell. And how easy was that? Pierre Gasly up to 8th. And Yuki Tsunoda is not too far behind. He's only 4 seconds behind Russell and is catching. So it still could get worse for Russell and Mercedes. Mercedes might end up finishing this race in 9th and 10th place. It could be that bad. Surely, Mercedes have got to pit their 2 cars soon, because their pace right now, I think they've got one of the slowest cars out there right now. The only teams slower than them right now are Williams and Haas. How bad is that? On lap 44, Max Verstappen is 5.8 seconds clear now of Lando Norris. Fernando Alonso, 15.7 seconds behind Norris, but 2.3 clear of Perez, and doing exactly what he needs to do if he's to take a brilliant podium for Aston Martin. Not quite sure why Perez is struggling, because Max is well over a second a lap quicker than Alonso per lap, so I don't get why Perez is struggling. I mean, Alonso is on fresher tyres, I get that, but it's not that much fresher than, than Perez. Not a gigantic difference. There's Gasly now slowly but surely gaining on Hamilton. Russell is still within a second of Gasly as Tsunoda now gaining very quickly on Russell. Tsunoda only 2.3 seconds behind Russell. AlphaTauri definitely need extra points. Alonso about to begin lap 45 of his Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Last time, guys, Alonso was on the podium here. Have a guess. Have a guess. And if you want to know, if you want to as well, post in the chat what team it was for. We're now looking at Tsunoda, who is gaining so much time. He's only a second and a half now behind. Gasly saying check the brakes, problem with the brakes. And Alpine saying copy, we're looking. Hopefully that's not an issue. They don't need that. As Logan Sargent pits from 11th place. Logan should come out down in 13th on the, well, be the medium compound tyre because he's not used it yet. So there you go. And yep. What do you call it? Let me know if you do know when Alonso's last podium here was. I can tell you if you want. Alonso's last podium here was for Ferrari, and it was in 3rd place, and it was in 2013. It was actually that race, that was the final race of the V8 era. That is how long ago that was. 10 years ago. As George Russell now pits for Mercedes and ends his misery with 25 laps to go and puts on a set of soft tyres, which I'm not sure is a great decision because he'll probably wear those out in about 5 laps. But they're going to try and see what they can do as Ocon now up to 10th. As Russell will come out in 11th place. 2 Alpines now in the points. Sorry, I saw a comment there from Rooksfoot saying 1853. It sure does feel like 1853, the V8 era. But yeah, that was the last time Alonso was on the podium in Brazil. Now he's facing a threat because Sergio Perez has pitted and goes on to a set of soft tyres. So they're going aggressive. I'm going to try and go for it now. Lance Stroll up to 4th. Sainz up to 5th. Lewis Hamilton pits as well. Pierre Gasly comes in as well. Tsunoda stays out. And Tsunoda, will he still be in 7th? Nope, Tsunoda goes just about ahead of Perez. That's key for Alonso. So now Perez is going to be held up for a lap as Hamilton comes out just behind Ocon. So Ocon up to 8th place. Ocon has already pitted twice, but his last pit stop was a bit of time ago, as Gasly has come out ahead of Russell, so Russell's not gained anything from doing that. Logan Sargeant now up to 12th as Nico Hülkenberg comes back into the pits. So, right, let me just update that Sergio Perez is on the soft tyre, so is Hamilton and Ocon. There you go. As here comes Perez on Tsunoda as Fernando Alonso pits. He's now at the pit exit. And Perez down the inside, but the damage has been done. Perez held up on the outlap. And Alonso comfortably maintains position over Perez as here comes Hamilton on the back of Ocon. And Hamilton does go up to 8th place. So Alonso in 5th is on the soft compound tyre. Perez on the soft, Tsunoda on the medium. I wonder what AlphaTauri are going to do. Surely they've got to come back in for another pit stop. I can't imagine they'll stay out there, because I don't think that would be the right thing to do. I mean, Tsunoda is 14 seconds clear of Hamilton, but Lewis will catch that up pretty quickly. So, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea for AlphaTauri to keep Tsunoda out there. Alonso, 3.2 seconds after that pit stop ahead of Perez, so the gap still comfortable. Logan Sargeant come out on another set of soft tyres. Oh, I've just remembered. Because we had the red flag, the whole what type of tyres you use, it doesn't matter, does it? As Gasly passes Ocon. And Pierre Gasly does the fastest lap of the race, a 1:14.5. Credit to him. So yeah, because of the red flag rule, yeah, Sargeant can finish the race on the softs, which is all good. And Logan is what? How many seconds? 14.5 seconds away from a point. We'll see what he can do. As we're on lap 50 now. Max Verstappen, 7 seconds clear of Lando Norris. Both Verstappen and Norris, if they pit now, they will both come out still 1st and 2nd. As Lance Stroll in 3rd is 27 seconds behind Norris. I wonder what Lance Stroll is going to do. 20, or just over 20 laps to go. As Lewis Hamilton now has Pierre Gasly all over the back of him, and this is for position. Gasly, DRS, and Hamilton doesn't even defend. Pierre Gasly up to 8th and past the 2 Mercedes. What a disaster. And yeah, this has got to be the worst race Mercedes have had, possibly since they came back onto the grid in 2010 as a works team. I can't think of another race, definitely in the hybrid era, that's been as bad as this. They are legitimately heading for a 9th and 10th place finish. And also, Hamilton not gaining that much time on Tsunoda, despite being on fresher tyres, as Hamilton saying, I'm in his DRS and I'm still not catching him. That is how slow they are. And yeah, this has to be the worst race in the history of Mercedes-Benz. As Max Verstappen out front, still 7.5 seconds clear of Lando Norris. As we're looking at Sergio Perez, who's trying to catch Fernando Alonso, and he is catching Fernando Alonso. He's took a second out of him in the last 2 to 3 laps. So Perez getting on with it to try and take the podium. Of course, we need to see what Stroll and Sainz do in 3rd and 4th. Will they pit again? You'd think they would, but they don't have to. They can stay out if they want to. But yeah, we will see. But yeah, Pierre Gasly, as long as he catches Tsunoda quick enough, heading for a 7th place finish. Thought that was going to happen, considering both Red Bulls, both Aston Martins, both Mercedes are still out there, and a Ferrari. As was Max Verstappen then told to box? No, it was Carlos Sainz. So Carlos Sainz comes in, and he should come out in, I think, 7th place behind Tsunoda. He does. Sainz on a set of soft tyres. So, 3rd and 4th for now for Aston Martin, but Stroll, you'd imagine, will pit again. Tsunoda on the medium, Sainz on the soft. As we are now on lap 53 out of 71, and really, as long as the tyres can go to the end, I mean, Verstappen and Norris could go to the end if they wanted to. Their pace is easily good enough to get to the end of this race and still finish in the positions that they're in, considering we've only got 18, 19 laps to go. As Esteban Ocon pits for Alpine, pushing Russell into the top 10, 9th and 10th only for Mercedes-Benz in this sorry end to the season. As Perez now a second only behind Alonso, and I think might start shaping up for a move on Fernando, as Logan Sargent up to 11th, and Logan is actually catching Russell. Not by a ton of lap time, but he is gradually catching him. So Russell might not even get a point here. You never know. And with Ocon having just pitted for a new set of soft tyres, Ocon could be a threat towards the end. As Lance Stroll, has pitted and has come out ahead of Sainz, 2 seconds clear of Sainz in 6th place. So, Tsunoda up to 5th now, still hasn't pitted for the 2nd time. And he's 6.5 seconds clear, Tsunoda, of Stroll. Surely, Yuki will pit again. Unless he somehow has the pace to get to the end on that tyre and still get a good points paying position. And yes, slow pit stop there for Stroll. That's why the gap came down so much from about 5 seconds down to 2. 4.3 second stop for the Canadian. As Perez still just about a second behind Alonso, if not just under a second. And does have the DRS, and this is where the Red Bull really will start to gain, as Oscar Piastri in 15th has pitted, presumably for another set of soft tyres. Can Alonso pull away enough in this middle sector? Keep ahead of Perez as we're on lap 55. Not too long to go. Make sure, guys, to stick around until after the stream, because, what do you call it? As Esteban Ocon now does the fastest lap, a 1:14.2, and did that whilst passing Logan Sargent. And yeah, watch out for Ocon. He might catch Russell by the end if he can really push hard. Yeah, make sure, guys, to stick around until after the stream, because, of course, I will be doing a reaction to this Grand Prix. And I want to know from you guys, most importantly, who is your driver of the day? There are many options for driver of the day. Let me hear them. As looks like Tsunoda is either going to do a very late short stint on the soft tyre, or they're sticking out there and they're going to try and finish the race on a set of mediums. I'll just quickly mute myself to just clear my throat and blow my nose. I just wanted to say quickly, one thing I have noticed is Pierre Gasly, talking of his great race, he's not that far behind Carlos Sainz. He's only 1.7, 1.8 seconds behind. That gap is going up, but not by a lot. So, yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Very good race pace from Alpine. Not expected at all. As Perez now onto the pit straight. He's got a good run on Alonso. And he gains to the DRS down to turn 1. He does the fastest lap as well, but he can't quite send it yet. But can he get a good enough exit through turn 1, 2, and 3 to have a go? Perez does a 1:14.1 and Tsunoda does pit. Maybe a bit too late, but we'll see what happens with his race later. Down to turn 4. Perez not close enough to overtake. Let me just see where Tsunoda comes out. I think Tsunoda will come out in 10th place. And should be on the soft compound tyre. As we're on lap 57. 15 full laps remaining in Brazil. What's been I think a pretty decent Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Not as good as last year, but still good. As Max Verstappen pits, Lando Norris has stayed out. The Verstappen down to second. And what tyre will Verstappen be on? I'll let you know in a moment. And he's on the soft. As Perez gaining on Alonso again down to turn 1. Not close enough, though, for the move. And yes, Tsunoda is on the soft tyre in 10th place. But he's only 5.3 seconds behind Russell. I think Tsunoda might be able to gain at least 1, if not 2 more positions before the checkered flag. As Daniel Ricciardo pits in 14th, still a lap down. As Esteban Ocon is, not really catching Russell too quickly. I don't think he'll end up in the points, sadly. As Lando Norris still out there on lap 58 now. Maybe they're just staying out there just in case a safety car or virtual safety car gets deployed. It is worth the risk. If the tyres are not going to explode, it is worth the risk. Because if they do get a safety car or virtual safety car at the right time, that could allow them to win this race. As Oscar Piastri is right behind Lando on a fresh set of tyres. As Perez, once again, can he pass Fernando? No. Alonso just getting a great exit every time from the final corner as Tsunoda has already passed Russell. Oh, Russell's got a problem. And they've told him to retire the car. So George Russell is out of the race. I know it's Tsunoda had just overtaken him. No idea what that's about. So that pushes Ocon up to 10th. Sargent 11th. Hulkenberg 12th. Ricciardo 13th. Piastri 14th. Another retirement in this race. And yeah, what a disastrous race this has been for Mercedes, as everyone on the soft compound tyre, except for Lando Norris, who still hasn't pitted for the second time, as we're on lap 59. Max Verstappen, fastest lap, he's just done a 1:14.0. And yeah, Russell comes in And they probably just retired because, well, they weren't going to get anything. Perez still close to Alonso, but Alonso still doing enough. But I think Perez is slightly closer on this occasion as they come onto the straight, heading to down to turn 4. And Alonso is still far enough ahead. Great driving from Alonso to keep himself just about ahead of Sergio Perez. Lance Stroll having a good race in 5th and pulling away from Carlos Sainz behind. What a race this has been for Aston Martin. 3rd and 5th, a massive result for them. If they were to secure that, 25 points that would be. Actually, that pull them closer to McLaren in the championship, as Lando Norris now pits on lap 60 and 71, goes onto a set of soft tyres. And yeah, that should be the race all done for in terms of who is going to win, unless Lando gains a stupid amount of time on fresh tyres, which I don't think he will. And here comes Perez on Alonso. Perez has the outside line, now tries to get a good exit, and he does get a good exit. It's not the greatest, but it's still good enough. Down to turn 4. Perez, DRS open. And will he send it? No, he's just not close enough, but he's getting closer. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, everyone now still running on the soft compound tyre. As, well, looking throughout the field, this is the only fight remaining. And it is the fight for 3rd place. As Tsunoda in 9th, looks like he's backed off. As he's 14 seconds behind Hamilton and not really gaining. As realistically, I think it was going to be difficult to catch Hamilton that quickly. But still, good result for AlphaTauri. A couple points if they can get it. And that'll put them just 7 points behind Williams with 2 races to go. Never know, they could take 7th in the championship, even though I think Williams deserve it more. As Perez still close to Alonso on the exit of turn 1 on lap 61. But not as close on this occasion. And this right here is why Fernando Alonso is one of the best drivers on the grid. Because he is managing this situation so well. Making sure he gets the best exit he can. So he can keep ahead of Perez right when it matters. Because in the middle sector, obviously he doesn't want to be too slow. But he doesn't have to be giving it everything. He just needs to make sure he gets a good enough exit where he needs to keep ahead. As Lando Norris, by the way, going incredibly quickly on those new soft tyres and gaining a lot of time on Verstappen. Maybe that's what Lando or McLaren's plan was, to go on much fresher tyres. Maybe put Max and Red Bull under pressure towards the end. As Lando Norris does do the fastest lap. A 1 minute 12.4. What a lap that is. And that surely will be the fastest lap of the race, as he's cut the gap down to 11.2 seconds, and it is quickly closing. As we've only got 10 laps to go here in Sao Paulo. As Perez not close enough on this occasion down to turn 4 to actually think about going for a move on Fernando. But as far as I'm concerned, Alonso deserves, I think, to finish on the podium, because he has driven better this weekend than Perez has, as far as I'm concerned. And of course is a much better driver. And I think, considering what he's had to put up with in the second half of this season, this would be a welcome relief, being back on a Formula One podium. Of course, he's had, I think, 7 podiums already this season. This would be quite a sweet podium for him. As we are now on lap 63 out of 71. Perez not that close really on this occasion, nearly over a second behind as they open the DRS, did Perez down to turn 1. Alonso looks like he is wearing Perez down and has outsmarted him even more. Perez's tyres continue to fade in the dirty air of the Aston Martin. Just trying to see if there's any other battles out there. Tsunoda is very quickly now catching Hamilton, but not enough laps left for Tsunoda to overtake. Lando Norris now 9.9 seconds behind Max Verstappen. As he continues to close. Perez still within a second of Alonso, but that gap is getting bigger between Alonso and Perez as we're now on lap 64 out of 71. And yeah, Lando is catching quickly, but I think Max, if necessary, can pick up the pace to maintain the lead and take the win. So I don't think Verstappen is in trouble here. As at the moment in the constructors, Ferrari will, if it remains the way it is, Ferrari will only be 20 points behind Mercedes, and McLaren will be 100 points behind Mercedes and 80 points behind Ferrari. About 22, 23 points ahead of Aston Martin, which is not too bad. Obviously, with Piastri having what damage he had to his car and going a lap down at a pretty unlucky event. And it's never really gone right, has it, for Piastri? But thankfully, next Grand Prix in Vegas, it's new for everyone, so he won't have a disadvantage. And then in Abu Dhabi, he's raced there at least a couple times before, so Piastri will be back on form, I think, probably in Vegas. As Perez closer as they come onto the pit straight. And he now opens the DRS. And still, though, isn't close enough into turn 1, but I think might be close enough to shape up for a move on the exit. Turn 1, 2, and 3. Does he get a good enough exit? It's not quite good enough. And Alonso, I think, has done enough to keep ahead on this occasion, and he has. Sergio Perez still right on Alonso's tail. And yeah, no other battles out there, really. Lando Norris winning the Driver of the Day vote, which I'm not quite sure about. I mean, Lando's had a great race and a great weekend, but I don't think he's been Driver of the Day. I think that's a bit excessive. I'd probably go Alonso or Gasly for my Driver of the Day, to be honest. Because Alonso, I think, has driven great to maintain the pace he's had. And he is, quite a bit ahead of his teammate. But Pierre Gasly, remember, in an Alpine car that nobody expected to be quick here, he's running in 7th place, only 3.8 seconds behind a Ferrari, who I thought the Ferraris would probably be lapping the Alpines this weekend. Gasly, 7th place. And remember, Pierre started 15th on the grid. So I'd probably go for Pierre Gasly as my Driver of the Day. Yeah, definitely a lot of contenders out there, as Alonso still on the exit turn 4 ahead of Perez. Perez on that occasion wasn't really close enough to contend. As we are now in the nearly final 5 laps of this Sao Paulo Grand Prix. And yet we are now on lap 67, so 5 full laps remaining. Can Alonso hold on for his first podium since the end of August? Perez coming on to the start-finish straight. Bit closer than he was a lap before, but Alonso is just so consistent, getting the exit of the corners absolutely bang on, not putting a foot wrong every single lap. And Perez just can't deal with that. It's such good driving from Alonso, and it's why he is still one of the best drivers in the world, because he is so consistent and so intelligent. So intelligent. Thinks his way through a race brilliantly. And at 42 years old, his experience also helping quite a lot. Remember, 18 years ago, he won his first world title here in Brazil. That's how old Fernando Alonso is. And obviously his second world title he won here as well in 2006. As Max Verstappen now 8.3 seconds clear of Norris on lap 68. So yeah, Max is safe. Tsunoda continuing to catch Hamilton, but still won't be enough to catch and pass by the end. Perez almost dropped over a second behind Alonso as he entered the pit straight. On this occasion, not close. Perez, the only reason really why Perez is still able to closely follow Alonso is the DRS. If Perez drops outside of the DRS, outside of the DRS activation, then I think Alonso will pull away, because I don't think Perez is really quick enough to pass Fernando. And Lance Stroll, actually, behind Perez, is lapping quicker than Perez. So Sergio Perez's pace, not very good. But at least Perez scoring more points than Hamilton, 8 more points. And that will put him, 32 points clear of Hamilton with 2 races to go, as we are on lap 69 out of 71. Max Verstappen 3 laps away from winning in Brazil for the first time since 2019. It will only be his second win in Brazil. He's always been quick here, but not always had the luck. Sometimes has screwed himself over. But today, this weekend, he has been just too good, as he always is, and is about to take his 17th win of the season. As Perez still close to Alonso, but Alonso just perfect on the exit of the corners. This is just perfect driving. As Carlos saying on the radio, I have no downshifts, like the left paddle is not responding. Not good if you're Carlos Sainz, because Pierre Gasly is not a million miles behind. Gasly's only 4.2, 4.3 seconds behind. So if he does develop a problem very quickly, then Ferrari might lose crucial points. As the battle rages on between Alonso and Perez, but Alonso still driving perfectly as we begin the penultimate lap in Brazil. And Perez gets a lot closer. Oh, that was a brilliant final corner from Perez. Gains so much into the final corner. He's a lot closer now as we're on to penultimate lap. Can he force Fernando to defend? And I think he will. And yeah, he's going to go to the inside. Oh, that was so close. I thought they were going to crash. And Perez, with a brilliant move, is up to third. But can Alonso come back at him? I'm not sure he can. He will have the DRS, and Perez will be forced to defend. But he holds him back. Sergio Perez, what a move that was. And that overtake could save Perez's Red Bull career. As Alonso is still trying his best to get past, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it. As he thought about sending it at turn 8 where Piastri passed Ricciardo yesterday, but that would have been a race-ending crash. Maybe, though, Alonso still has a chance. And you know what? Looking at Alonso, I think Alonso still has a decent chance of maybe repassing Perez. Oh, maybe not. Perez getting a very good exit from turn 10 as we are on the final lap in Brazil. And Alonso does have a decent run on Sergio Perez as they come onto the pit straight for For them, the penultimate time. And Alonso, is he close enough? He forces Perez to defend. That's important. And Perez does go slightly wider than ideally wanted. And Alonso gets a great exit. Can Alonso take the podium? Perez forced to the inside. Alonso round the outside. And he's done it. Alonso's up to third. Brilliant from the Spaniard. You cannot keep Alonso down for long. No matter how old he is, he will keep fighting until the bitter end. Max Verstappen, here he comes to win in Brazil for the first time since 2019 and take his 17th win of the season. Max Verstappen wins in Brazil. Lando Norris finishes in second. And let's see if Fernando Alonso will take third as Perez right on his gearbox. This is going to be so close to the line as Perez very aggressive through the final corner like he was again. If only he'd done that a bit earlier, would have maybe worked out. Can Alonso hold on to the line? They're going to be neck and neck, I think, as they come to the line. Who took the podium? Alonso did. Alonso by 0.053 of a second finishes in third place. What a finish here in Brazil. Alonso third, Perez fourth, Stroll fifth, Carlos Sainz sixth, Gasly seventh, Hamilton eighth, Tsunoda ninth, Ocon 10th, Sargent 11th, Hulkenberg 12th, Ricciardo 13th, Piastri 14th. And then your retirements from this race: George Russell, Valtteri Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, Alex Albon, Kevin Magnussen, and Charles Leclerc never even started because of a hydraulic issue. And yeah, they're just showing the replay of that end. What a brilliant ending to the race. That was brilliant. And Alonso by half a tenth. That's how close it is in Formula One. Half a tenth separating you from a podium and the disappointment of fourth. But there you go. Wow. What an ending that was. And let me just get this text on the screen so you guys know that the race is over. But make sure to stick around, guys, because we are now going to get into the reaction to this Grand Prix. A pretty good Grand Prix. Not as good as, again, last year, maybe the year before, but still good as far as I'm concerned. So, and as well, out of 10, let me know what you thought of this race and what would you rate out of 10. I think I would give that probably a 7 out of 10. It was a good race, not a great race, but it was good. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So, who is your driver of the day for the 2023 Sao Paulo GP? And your options for driver of the day will be Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, hold on, Fernando Alonso. I'll put Lando Norris in there and Pierre Gasly. I am going for Pierre Gasly as driver of the day. I thought he had a brilliant race today. Couldn't have done any more than he did. Yeah, brilliant afternoon's work for the gas man. So Pierre Gasly is my driver of the day. Let me know, though, in that poll, who is your driver of the day in Brazil? Wild Corner Vice saying 9. Crystal Racing saying 7. Deragaris 7.5. Interlagos, he says, is at least a 7 every year, though. True. I mean, last year's was probably a 9 at the very least. It was an epic race in Brazil last year. Pretty crazy, this one, though. I mean, you know, lots of retirements. And a surprising result. We didn't think Alonso was going to be on the podium. I think maybe a couple people did, but I think most of us thought that it wasn't possible, but he made it possible. Nib saying 5. How did Stroll pass Hamilton and Tsunoda? Well, because the Aston Martin, I have to say, was pretty quick today. Let's not deny that. But yeah, that was brilliant from Alonso towards the end. Sorry, by the way, the amount of coughing. Yeah, I just don't feel very well today for the reasons I gave earlier. John Lord says the one race Lewis needed Mercedes to be on the ball, and yet again Mercedes Muppets strike again. Justin Salanaz says I give it a perfect 5 out of 7. Yeah, what an ending that was. That was brilliant. That's, what you want in Formula One. The only thing, I think, looking back, the only thing that could have made that better is if Lando was able to keep up with Max. And ultimately, he wasn't able to because the Red Bull is too quick. But if he was, and we had a proper fight for the win, that would have made this race probably an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Vince says 7. And yeah, Seragara saying Stroll also good this weekend. Yeah, shout out to Stroll, which I know I haven't said in a while, but yeah, he has had a good weekend, and Aston Martin much better weekend, no doubt about it. But right, I'll let you guys vote in that poll. So if you haven't let me know your driver of the day, make sure to vote in that poll. What I'm gonna do though is I'm going to go through my initial reaction. Remember, guys, though, I will be live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. UK time for a review of not just this weekend, but really what's happened over the course of this triple header, where we had, a couple of weeks ago, the US Grand Prix, last weekend, Mexico City, and then Sao Paulo this weekend. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow night at 7 p.m. UK time. So make sure to come along to that. Share your thoughts on what's been a pretty good triple header. It's not been that boring, I don't think. Nib saying I shall hold my tongue when it comes to Kevin Magnussen. Oh dear. I will say I'm a bit surprised they didn't let Ricciardo and Piastri unlap themselves. I just assumed they would, but yeah, they didn't. But there you go. And we'll never know how quick those two were. I think Ricciardo maybe could have got a point today. But yeah, ultimately, we'll never know. I just need to mute myself quickly because I'm going to sneeze. Wow, I thought I was going to sneeze, but thankfully I did not. Anyway, yeah, let me go into my initial reaction to what's been a good race and a good weekend in Brazil. The Red Bull, another win for Max Verstappen. 17th win of the season. 17 wins out of the 20 races. Absolute filth from Max Verstappen. And he didn't need to be amazing today, just needed to do enough, and that's what he did. Red Bull ultimately were the quicker team. Would have been interested, though, to see how a Verstappen-Norris fight for the win would have gone, but the McLaren just wasn't quick enough to keep up, and Red Bull cruise to their 19th win of the season. And if they do win next Grand Prix in Las Vegas, they'll be the first team ever to win 20 or more races in a Formula One season for Red Bull. Yeah, even though Perez didn't get on the podium, he did his best. Maybe could have done a bit better, but I can't really complain too much about Perez. I think it was more so Alonso being just so good today that kept him on the podium. So yeah, first and fourth, a fine result. If Perez had a bit better of a qualifying, I think maybe things would have been different. What is there to say really about Mercedes? The worst race they have had possibly in their history. They were at one point in ninth and 10th place, and they were so slow. They were one of the slowest cars out there today. No straight line speed, wearing the tyres out twice as much as other cars. They were absolutely horrendous, a complete joke. And let's let's hope that does not continue in the final couple races, because even for me, I could not quite bear to see them that bad, because they've got two great drivers, but this weekend have given them a car that is absolutely horrendous, an absolute dog of a car. So yeah, horrible, horrible race for Mercedes. The two drivers, you can't really complain about what they did. They tried their best. The car was an absolute shit show. Ferrari, obviously, reliability issue for Leclerc once again, pitching him off the track, hydraulic issue, and that's why he never started. Carlos Sainz finishing in 6th. To be honest, I don't think Sainz could have done any better. I don't think the Ferrari car was as quick as the Aston Martin today, so yeah, I don't think we can really complain about Carlos Sainz's performance. But the only positive I can say is that Ferrari have come out of this Grand Prix with more points than Mercedes, and the gap is now down to, I think, 20 points or something like that. And second in the championship is doable. They just need to have a strong final couple races. McLaren, very good weekend, a lot quicker than we expected. Lando Norris, what a weekend he's had. Second in the sprint on pole, and from 6th on the grid, ended up getting up to 2nd and comfortably finishing in 2nd place, and not too far away in the end from Max Verstappen. He's getting there. The more he keeps himself up there, he will eventually get his chance to win a race. He just needs to keep this consistency up like the top drivers do. And I have to say, his consistency at the minute is very good. He's been on the podium, Lando, in every Grand Prix since Singapore, except for the last Grand Prix in Mexico, where he did actually win the driver of the day vote. Just shows you how well Lando is performing right now. So, yeah, great race from him. And let me just see, where is Norris in the championship? Lando now 5th in the championship ahead of Sainz and only 3 points behind Alonso. And 4th in the championship, I think, would be a great season for him. By the way, John Lord in the chat, thank you very much for that comment, saying Chazzer HD, which is me, providing the best F1 commentary. Thank you very much for that. For Oscar Piastri, very unlucky weekend. I'm sure next year when he comes back here, he'll have a much better one. Aston Martin finally returned to form, 3rd and 5th. What a result. That's I think the biggest amount of points really they've scored in a Grand Prix this season. And Fernando Alonso back on the podium. It is so good to see, and he deserves it. He's been one of the best drivers this season, one of the most consistent, and that last lap overtake, that's Fernando Alonso at his absolute best, and that's why we all love him at still 42 years old. Lance Stroll got a shout out as well. Great drive from him. 25 points for the team, and you never know if they can show a bit more of this in the final couple races. Maybe Aston Martin can take 4th place back. Most likely they won't, but you never know. Alpine, good result for them. Pierre Gasly finishing in 7th. Esteban Ocon finishing in P10. 7 points they come away from this Grand Prix with. Nobody expected that. I don't even think the team expected to come away with even any points from this Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly, my driver of the day. What a race he had. Really getting the best out of that car, and even showing a bit more than that. I think he was really one of the absolute star performers out there today for Alpine. Ocon had a bit of a messy race, but yeah, at least he got something for his effort. Alpine, of course, comfortably heading for 6th in the championship. Williams, Logan Sargent, I have to say, good race. Just a shame that he wasn't higher on the grid, because if he was, I think maybe things could have gone different today in a way that allowed him to maybe get on the get into the top 10. Alex Albon, of course, was eliminated at the start. Nothing really Albon could do. Just unfortunate the way he was positioned at the start. But Williams, no points for them. But AlphaTauri do score a couple points. And AlphaTauri now just 7 points behind Williams. 2 races to go. And with the form as it is, AlphaTauri, they could legitimately finish 7th in the championship. You would imagine the final couple races of the season, they will be pretty competitive. And both drivers, Tsunoda and Ricciardo, in great form. I've got to say as well, Tsunoda, great weekend. Been faster than Ricciardo all weekend. 6th in the sprint yesterday, 9th here after starting 15th or 16th actually on the grid. Brilliant driving from Tsunoda. I think we have to put him as one of the drivers of the weekend for sure. Alfa Romeo, both cars retiring, not quite sure why, but their pace was pretty dog shit anyway. And Haas F1 are Haas F1. So there you go. That's my initial reaction. Again, I'll have some topics properly to go through tomorrow in reaction to what's happened here. But let me read out some final comments from you guys before I come to the end of the stream. It's been an emotional day, but at least, I got through the stream, and it was a good race, which thankfully kept me occupied and healthier, let's say. Nib saying, LeMayo journalist just tweeted that if Max decided not to have raced since Hungary, he would still be leading the championship. Yeah. Well, he's, is it 270 points clear of Perez now? Ridiculous how far clear he is. Yeah. He's had such an amazing season. Find some other comments here. I think a couple of people saying Mercedes is worst race since Germany 2019. Crystal Racing saying, to be honest, I still think Alonso was at fault for the Ocon fault or crash. Alonso could have moved away from the middle line more. Not being aware is not an excuse. I see what you mean, but I still think Ocon, it was his problem. Alonso could have moved over more, yeah, but I don't think it would have made possibly that much difference, because I think Alonso, when you look at where he was on the track for that, if he had moved over a bit, there is a chance Ocon still would have got either very close or would have still made contact, because Ocon was out of control with him, overcorrecting the car and all of that. But, that's what happened in the sprint. Doesn't matter, of course, anymore. And yeah, Laurie Rostoki saying he wasn't anticipating that Ocon was going to oversteer. Absolutely. But I think, guys, I'm going to bring the stream to a close, as I'll just finish up the poll in the chat. I've asked you guys, who is your driver of the day for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix? 62 votes, and you guys have gone for Fernando Alonso by a massive margin, 54% of the vote. Max Verstappen second, Lando Norris third, and Pierre Gasly, very surprisingly, fourth. I don't agree with that, but that's your opinion. That's what you feel. That's all good. And I just want to say, as we are at, not quite the end of the coverage. Sorry about the coughing. Yeah, we're not quite at the end of the coverage for this Grand Prix. As I said, I will be, as I'll just show here, I will be live tomorrow at 7 p.m. UK time for a weekend review. And then you can see there the next live stream on the channel, the weekend preview for Las Vegas on Thursday the 16th of November, live at 8 p.m. UK time. By the way, for Vegas, I'm not just going to be doing a qualifying and race watch-along, but I will be doing a watch-along for all of the practice sessions, because it's a new Grand Prix, and why not? But I just want to say, because of how tough of a day I've had, and really the last couple of weeks, and how emotional and down I've been about, the cat that sadly I've lost today. I just want to thank you guys a lot for the support. It means a lot to me, and it really has got me through this stream, because literally, guys, 20 minutes before the stream, I was crying so hard I couldn't breathe. That was that bad. I've been that destroyed today. So I love all you guys. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope that you'll continue knocking around, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe I'll see you next to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Of course, quite a bit different timing for that Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. I appreciate it so much. Again, before I go, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe for more content like this, because we do qualifying, race watch-alongs, sometimes practice watch-alongs, but also weekend previews, weekend reviews, and this is a great place to keep up to date with the channel. Not keep up to date with the channel, sorry, to keep up to date with everything going on in Formula 1. So if you are new, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell. And as well, if you haven't already, smash that like button. It does help show me that you guys actually enjoy the content. And I've been pretty happy with the amount of likes I've been getting lately. So yeah, if you do like the content and you haven't hit the like button, make sure to do so, because it does help my understanding of what you guys are enjoying here on the channel. And as well, if you want to keep up to date with my content, we have the Discord server. There's a link below in the description for that, or even in the live chat. You can join that server. That's a great place to keep up to date with when I go live, upload videos, do content updates, stuff like that. And then also, we have my Twitter or X account, whatever you want to call it. It is ChazHD over there, or at ChazHD5. If you do have an account over there, make sure to follow me if you want to keep up to date with everything I'm doing. But yeah, been an emotional weekend, but thank you guys a lot. And until the next Grand Prix in Las Vegas in 2 weeks from now, the first ever Las Vegas Grand Prix, and until my live stream tomorrow night, 7 p.m. UK time, going through what's been quite a dramatic triple header in Formula 1 in 2023. It's been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.